You know what? Enough of this. I no. We're starting this. We need to fucking talk about D&D, everybody. This stuff is beyond out of hand. For those who know me off screen, I have ranted about the changes in the industry for a long time. I worked in video games for a decade, a little more. I've worked in tabletop for even longer than that. I've worked in Corpo 500 companies and everything else under the sun. And video games I left for a reason. And part of that reason was how to identify the right way to use microtransactions. And you may be screaming at the screen right now. And I had a really good talk with my buddy from Cypher Unlimited, and he's right about one thing. The younger generation sees microtransactions as a norm, and they're fine with it. But those games are free. They cost no dollar bills, y'all. Nothing. It cost them $0 to play the game. It costs you money to exceed and get better at the game by buying their monthly pass and whatever it is. We've seen it with Apex Legends and a lot of other video games. And I personally believe microtransactions are a hazy area. There's a lot of bad things that can come out of the gambling mentality of it. But look, at the end of the day, as a consumer, it's your choice if you're okay with it. It's kind of like smoking. I don't care what those packages used to say. Like, oh, smoking was good back in, what was it, the 50s? But then we got later into smoking and we found out that, oh no, it causes cancer and it fucking kills people. Like, you knew when you were smoking those things, when you woke up in the morning coughing your lungs out, you knew the cause. You just denied it until some federal agency told you, yeah, this shit kills you, by the way. In case you didn't know. So that brings us to D&D today. And if no one has seen, D&D is launching in September. And I said I would not slander companies. And I still won't slander a company. I have a lot of friends that work at Wizards of the Coast. To be 100% transparent about it, I agree with some of their design philosophies. I agree with a lot of things they do. But I don't agree with the choices that the higher-ups in the C-suite or the corporate suites are making. I just don't. And today is the fucking primary example of that. It's the primary example. So I'm going to start recording here for the video I'm going to put out after all this. The live stream is going to have a little extra stuff in it. We're going to go over what's here, and then I'm going to do what I always do and record the kind of end 15-minute rant on what's going on. Because I have a feeling the more I do this today, the higher my rage meter is going to hit. We're going to Final Fantasy cap out here really fast. Limit break the whole thing. And this is to you, Drew. Drew, this should make you happy. You're going to get to see me rage about something. You said I should have been doing it online a long time ago. So guess what, motherfucker? You're going to get it now because this shit is wild. Let's go over to the work table. Let's start looking at the bullshit that Wizards of the Coast is trying to bring to the tabletop industry. Because it's not okay. It's not. It's a bitch move. D&D, everybody. D&D 24 plan. This is our 2024 plan. Now, I do a few things today. I'm going to sit down for this. If I stand the whole time, I'll move out of camera out of being angry. So there is a lot that we have to talk about here. First off, for those who don't know, D&D, or Wizards of the Coast, hasn't been to Gen Con in, I think, over a decade. So much so they have no presence there, but they have a bunch of people who run their organized play. And bravo to those GMs and players and organizers that do that. You guys are a godsend to people who want to have games to play when they're in the industry. Not shitting on them, for clarity for anyone who's watching this later. But as of today, what is this? July, is it the 6th today? The 7th? July 7th. As of July 7th, I am going to say this. I will not be a part of any organized play. I won't be a part of any of this stuff that has to do with D&D until either the C-suite changes or us not doing things for Wizards of the Coast or buying their products changes their ways. I'm fucking done. You won't see it on my channel. And any review I have of one of these books, it will be because I'm reviewing it for someone I know in the book or to talk about the corporate greed that's involved until it changes. That's just how it's going to be. Because everyone keeps going back and buying the shit every fucking time. So looking at this, you may be going, man, this is a pricey setup. So this is the 2024 digital and physical core rulebook bundle. It's $179.97. Price isn't bad, right, everybody? That's not too bad. Like, you don't feel like you're getting ripped off too bad. Here's your images that are in here and what we get with this bundle. Here's some art assets. Now, I'm showing you these because they're important. 12 classes, 48 subclasses. You can do the math there yourself. 500 creatures, new weapon masteries. And everyone, if you remember, this was going to be D&D 1 or D&D 5E, but no, D&D 5. This fucking, pick a name. So now it's just the 2024 edition of D&D 5E. Because they realize that the only way they can keep growing their brand is if they don't change the name. Because if you change a name, it's really hard to grow a brand. This is coming from someone who like teaches branding for companies and gets hired to do branding for companies. If you change your name too many times, so if a tabletop company brings out a new game every 10 years, they have to change the name of the system, like first edition, second edition, third. That shit doesn't work in branding. When you brand Nike, you brand the word fucking Nike. When you brand, Jordans, you brand the word Jordan. You don't change the version anywhere in the branding title. But because this fucking thing is a game and it has to have versions, and that has been the mold put forth since first edition, they have to keep putting editions out. So you see all the lovely stuff. I'm not going to flip through any more of this. Fuck them. They don't deserve it. Free shipping and everything else. Now, here's where it starts getting really spicy for those who don't know. It's a digital-only bundle and a physically-only bundle are also available. So this is the core together. Notice this is a pre-order. I would like to remind people, if you're not aware, all the books aren't coming out together. Okay? All the books aren't coming out together. So we're going to go over to something, and there's only one spot that has the dirt on this. It laid out in the most dirty, perfect way, which is Facebook. It's what's fucking weird as it is to say. And some of the contents are wild. Now, I need to be clear about something. There's nothing wrong with pre-orders. I understand from a small business to a large business and how the printing aspect works, that you really do have to have an idea of how many people are going to buy your product. I don't have a problem with pre-ordering something. I don't. I pre-order games my whole life, video games. In tabletop, I'll pre-order too. I'll do Kickstarters for companies that I trust. This company, I have no trust. Do any of you have trust? I don't have trust. I have no trust for them. And since I don't have any trust for this company, I don't want to pre-order. And wait till we look at these pre-order bonuses. You're going to start seeing the idea of what Ubisoft, EA, and larger companies have done in the video game space brought into the tabletop space. It's not fucking good, y'all. So, this is our lovely breakdown for what you get for the 2024 Player's Handbook bundles. There's just the Player's Handbook. Player's Handbook, what is this? 2 of them? Digital and physical. And then 2024 Core Rule Books, which is digital and physical, and it's all of them. You get dice sets. Are they digital dice sets? Because D&D Beyond is known for that. That's not specified. Frames. Oh, yeah, this has got to be digital. Frames for your stuff. Backdrops. And here's the fuck of it all. When D&D put this out, they decided to take the idea of the worst thing in video games, which is early access. Now, you should understand that early access is actually 2 things. It creates FOMO, which everybody knows what FOMO is. And that FOMO is to get you to want to be a part of it at an earlier stage than launch. In video games, when it first started, while FOMO was still being studied, like this concept of early access and FOMO, it was actually used to stress test things like servers and bug reports. Especially once patching was a thing and DLC was a thing, it was literally for that. Just to be clear, it had a good intention. Just like guns were made to hunt originally and protect, and then they turned into other things, very similar concept. They wanted it as a way to be able to stress test servers and stress test your game, make sure things are good. It gives you a couple of days to a week to patch that out and fix it. Those are early adopters that believed in what you were doing. That is not the case for this. These are printed motherfucking books and some digital stuff. And it is weeks. How are you giving early access for 2 fucking weeks and think that this is okay? Like, just let it sink in for a minute. 14 days, 14 of having those books so that somebody else can look at them in your group and go, man, this is great. You want to play? Yeah, well, do you have the D&D Beyond stuff? You got to have the early access to be able to use it on the table. No, because you know what's going to happen. If you don't have the early access, you can't use D&D Beyond. And that's how everyone plays D&D. So they're basically gating you out and saying, hey, man, you can't enter. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 unless you have the early access of 2 fucking weeks. So that's 2-week early access, right? And then on top of that, that's at the master tier. And then at the early access tier for hero tier, there is 1 week. They have a tiered structure for fucking early access. Everyone, you can't give 2-week and then 1-week access to a tabletop RPG. This isn't a video game. It is a community-based, everyone around a table, digital or real, playing a game together, and you're going to gate lock people unless they want to pre-order. And here's the real gist of it. This game comes out in September. But only the player's handbook. So the DMG and Monster Manual aren't out yet, or whatever the extra stuff is, right? It's not out yet. Why in the fuck would I pre-order all of these books together when I have no idea, as of today, what the DMG and Monster Manual looks like? Why would I do that? Why would I ever pre-order this stuff? You have no proof. It's not like, this isn't like the core set is out and then you're pre-ordering like Monster Manual 2, Player's Handbook 2, where you know what you already own, like owning the core game, if that's how they want to look at this shit. And then you are pre-ordering the next books coming out and you have trust because you've seen these books. There's no trust involved in this. They've not shown us shit. You should not pre-order this. You should not pre-order this for yourself. Don't do it. I'm going to tell you the same thing that every other streamer out there and every other content creator out there is saying. When you go to your store the day of release for this stuff, your brick and mortar store is going to have it. Fuck, Amazon's going to have it, everybody. There is no reason to lean into the nonsense that this company is trying to make you do right now. There's none. There's no fucking reason for it. Like, why? Why? Oh, we got a comment. Okay, hold on here. Let's go over to some comments here since we are on a live show right now. I want to bring up some of the things that we are talking about in chat as well. Excuse me, as well. So it's not long, but it's likely that way because they know the book PDFs will leak. So they are charging as much as can for minimum bonuses. So while that is a very positive way to look at it, I'm not going to give them the positive. We've only seen this company do greedy shit since 5e released and since they changed hands and since the woman from Microsoft came over that was the CEO. Here's the thing. You're talking about a company releasing the books and let's find the schedule. So we're not talking shit. I'm going to find the release schedule, okay? D&D 5e 2024 release schedule. Because I think they're months apart. Months. I'm pretty sure. So let's go back over here. Pretty sure they're month apart. Months. D&D 24 release schedule. So 2024 Descent, and that's March, May. Player's Handbook, September. Dungeon Master's Guides, November. Monster Manual isn't till February. Isn't until February. So you want me to pre-order this for something coming out in February. And I know internally, I know art's a lot of work. You got a lot of people working. It takes time to get that stuff in. Stat blocks take time. But I'm not going to pre-order this from you for these measly pieces. I don't care about your digital dice sets. I don't care about your frames. I don't care about your backdrops. I would care about them if it was like a pre-order the player's handbook and get them. But this whole bundle nonsense, and I just want you to know, this bundle is just, I believe, 2 sets. I think it's 2 sets of the players, DMs, all that stuff together. And it's a digital version because it's digital plus physical media. You save $60. Then also, only in this high level one, you get Dragons of D&D digital art book, and you get a gold dragon digital mini for the new virtual tabletop for them. Look, these rewards, fine, whatever. I'm okay. Like, you want to give out some stuff, like you supported us early, here's some extra shit. But this early access and tabletop is not okay. It's not. A Kickstarter where you put your money in and they immediately hand you a PDF so you can read over it before the launch of the whole thing is different than what they're doing here. This looks exactly like, you guys ready? Exactly like Star Wars Outlaws. They're just doing the same thing as Outlaws. As like, this is a big controversial thing that was coming out because of the price points on these, and because one of them gave DLC for like the Hut stuff, and you didn't get the DLC for Hut stuff unless you bought, I believe it was the Ultimate Edition. Fucking, even if it was the Gold Edition, it's not okay. They went back and sucked those words down because they realized they pissed everybody off. But it's the same thing as this, a $70, $100, and $120 version, and just to create FOMO. This 3 days early access, not 2 fucking weeks, everybody. It's not okay. It's not okay when you have stuff coming out in February of next year. So now, whoops, I didn't mean to shrink this. So now, let's look through what this gives. I want to look at the order now. Look at all these things it adds to my cart, right? And you can select, like, I want more of them. So let's go to my cart. Let's just see what it is. So it is the Player's Handbook. Can you guys see this on screen? You can. Good enough. Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide. Look at the prices on these things. This is the digital ones. Yeah, these are digital. A Monster Manual, Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide physical, and then Monster Manual physical. Their price points are $50. Hey, bravo for keeping it cheap. I know because they can do big print runs, they can do that. But this early access thing, it just infuriates me. Seeing the video game market come into this. And here's where I'm going to start my rant, everyone. I'm going to record this about this piece because I think this is where at the heart I'm the angriest. If you were to buy D&D and pre-order this $179 bundle, and you get all these extra access things, and you get 2 weeks early access at the master tier and 1 week early access at the hero tier, and people are buying this stuff, you're basically feeding the machine early, and the people who already created the art, the writing, and everything else for this company don't see that money. The only people who see this money are the C-suite, and they get to pad it, and they get to go to whoever they talk to for their financials and for all of your yearly reports and go, look how much we sold when the books aren't even fucking out yet. And you're forcing the hand of people to pre-order this stuff, creating FOMO. A microtransaction economy in a tabletop game. And if you all remember this, D&D said that they were under-monetized. Do you all remember that conversation earlier this year? They were under-monetized, that they were going to change their structure for how they were going to do it. We still don't know what the cost of D&D Beyond is going to be. The leaks from inside earlier this year were like $30 for D&D Beyond. So you're spending $179 plus $30 to get their digital VTT and D&D Beyond put together, if that $30 is true. But right now you're pre-ordering to get these books to look at them in advance, and you're not going to be playing it with your friends unless they also do the same thing. This is just sleazy. It's just sleazy. They make a ton of money. And if they had confidence in the work they were doing, and I'll tell you what, after Planescapes, after fucking Spelljammer, they shouldn't. I don't know what got cut when they went through and redlined everything in those books, but they left out ship combat for Spelljammer. I will harp on this till the cows come home. I don't have faith in this company to produce something for me when they've even said it's the same edition you already love, just updated with better layouts to make it more readable for people. That's all fine and dandy. But me paying $179.97, fuck the change, by the way, on that one. Were you playing World of Warcraft? Are you worried about the guild? So you're putting the 97 cents in to make it more appealing because it's not 99? Like, really, people, don't buy into this. Just wait. Just go get it on Amazon the same day. Go get it at your local game store the same day. Don't give in to this bullshit. All the frames and things like that they can give you. If you are a digital subscriber and you want to do the digital part because you only play digitally, and I hear you, I'm primarily a digital player nowadays. I play physical once a month, twice a month when I run for companies and people out here, or if I'm at a convention, I play physically. But I'm not going to give money to them early when I haven't seen anything from the DMG, anything from the Monster Manual, which isn't until February of 2025. So instead of doing this, I'm going to opt. This is the part of the show that I'm excited about. So I'm going to say this. Fuck you, D&D. You fucked up again. You've made too many fucking mistakes. You've stubbed your toe and tripped and somehow kept climbing the hill. And I'm tired of it. You knew when you put this out, I guarantee people inside of your company went, guys, this is a bad idea. Having 2 weeks early access for people are going to be mad. And you know what? They are mad. All the comments, there's 205 comments on this Dungeons & Dragons post as of, what is this, June 28th? They put this out, and then they've updated the image, and there are so many angry people in this post, it is ridiculous. Sure, if you buy the physical plus digital, you save $20. Sure, if you buy the digital plus physical and get 2 sets of them, you save $60. But you don't know how this is going to be. And if you already have 5th edition, you can keep playing it. And what I will say to this is very simple. D&D, you're not willing to be at Gen Con anymore. You're mad at them for something, right? And I know, as someone who's been in this industry for a while, you're going to throw your own fucking convention like Blizzard did. And Blizzard did really well with that for a while, until they didn't, because they got so greedy with a $60 mount that now they're struggling to save themselves. So much so that when they, I don't know, fucked over Overwatch 2 players with their season pass, the players let them know. The people who were buying their game said, nah, G, we're not doing that. And you know what? That's going to happen to them too. It's going to happen to D&D if they keep this crap up. It's happened every time. Every time. Every single time. I don't think the inherent price books on these books are bad. They're great. They didn't raise them. A lot of smaller publishers have had to raise their price points over the years. But if you're going to Gen Con this year to play an Adventure League, play 5th edition. Don't play whatever this one is. If you want to learn early access, that's on you. But remember, every time you touch base with Wizards of the Coast with something that is the 2024, fuck it, 5.1. I'm calling it 5.1. It's not 5.5. If you're there to go play 5.1 as a playtest and see if it's good, I don't disagree with you. It's your money. You're going to Gen Con, have a good time. I'll be there. We can sit down, share a drink, talk trash about it. Or you can tell me how much you loved it and why. I will always listen to the other side of the argument. But whenever you do, remember, they were too good to be at Gen Con, but they have all their people running games there. Their game releases in September. Instead of having a big release at Gen Con and selling a bunch of the physical copies. Do you want to know why? Now, this isn't tinfoil hat. This is pretty true. When a book releases at Gen Con and it is not received well, that book fails. Happens every time. If you release a board game, a book, whatever, at Gen Con as a big release, and people wait in lines to pick up your book to get a copy because they're super excited, and the first impression of that book is bad, you get flambéed publicly. Everyone at the con blows up about it, and everyone, it creates a footprint in social media about how they don't like your product. And it is forever. So they stopped going to Gen Con. And you might be like, but Eric, social media wasn't big. Oh, but all the reporters used to be there. If you don't know what Gleemax is, do yourself a service and go look at Gleemax and D&D Insider and how they fucked that up when they were doing it. And watch all of the nonsense unfold around Gleemax. Someone should do a good documentary on it because it was a nightmare. I know that, I think it was McFarlane that talked about working there during the D&D Insider time frame and the Glee Max crap. I have a Glee Max pen somewhere. They failed so bad they couldn't deliver any of the digital things that they said they were going to deliver, and people were pissed, and everyone knew about it. And it never came out. It took people's money, but it never came out. This is going to be the same thing. And for those who have seen the virtual tabletop and aren't allowed to talk about it, I can tell you most computers are going to have a hard time with it. Not going to be able to run it. You're going to be upgrading your PC too to do it. Seriously. So if this company is not willing to be at Gen Con, sticking it to the man sticking it to the man, they're not going to be there. That means that you're going to have to wait till September. And now that separates everyone out again. And the only people who are going to be able to report on this are people who either get it early, but influencers that are getting it early are going to sing its praises because that's their job. And I do, absolute clarity. I do not fault an influencer for selling a product. I was in sales for 20 years. You sell whatever piece of shit that was given to you because that's your job. Or even if it's good. Because the ethics of a company only matter once the masses think it matters. And right now, we are at this tipping point in the tabletop industry. We have a lot of other games that have come out due to OGL debacle that prove that D&D isn't needed. But what is needed is the community to play those games. So for example, you all know I used to work for Kobold Press as a contractor. I did their media stuff, I did their Wednesday show, and that company busted their butts to put out Tales of the Valiant. Tales of the Valiant is now shipping to everybody through Kickstarter. Some people already have their physical copies. I don't, Kobold Press. But you know what I'm saying, people have their stuff. And they have started building a really good organized play. I think at Gen Con last year when I was there working with them, if I remember correctly, they did 500 seats, I think, their first year out with just the beta. That's a solid number. And they are a really good 5e parallel. Kobold Press has been making 5e product in the best, in my opinion, monster manuals for 5e. So my question to you is, why do you need 5.1 D&D Beyond tabletop when you can get Tales of the Valiant and you can play it on Alchemy, you can play it on Roll20. I think Foundry's got it now. Why do you need to go play D&D? This is really adjacent. And right now, as of today, with my knowledge on what the 5.1 2024 edition is, Tales of Valiant's a better system. It just is. So they have a fan base. So if you're going to Gen Con or you go to conventions where they're doing organized play, go play Tales of the Valiant. Don't play D&D. Let them know that you don't like this, that you don't like the fact that there's a 2-week fucking pre-order bonus, that there's a 1-week pre-order bonus, that you can bundle all these things together and here's some FOMO. Come join us. You get it now and you can see it for 2 weeks before anybody else. Guys, they're literally just pulling a fast one on you. You could go play Shadowdark. That's all I've been talking about the last week or two is Shadowdark and Knave, and our new show on Monday coming out next week, not this one, but the one following if you're watching it live, we're going to have Shadowdark on screen. And I think that is a fantastic version of a D20 5e direct adjacent game, but it splits off and makes its own path. And it creates a game that's super easy to learn. It's fun. Your character levels are never the same with every class. And they have a phenomenal community of fun people running games that you could jump in and play right now. Join their Discord and go play it. Go play Shadowdark right now. And they're going to be at Gen Con. I know the big problem with Shadowdark for everybody so far has been, where do I get the books? There's no books anywhere. There's only PDFs. You're right. But Kelsey said they're going to be there with books this year. Because that first initial run sold out so fast, they had to go back to print. And printing right now, if anyone out here is not familiar with printing is a long process. I'm not even talking like the layout versus a PDF. By the way, there is a difference if you do it right. PDF layout versus print layout are two different things. Way margins are set, everything is different. Or how you had your cuts for everything. You strip out the hyperlinks to make it easier to send to them. There's a whole bunch of things that are involved with going to print proofs. You literally do print off the pages and go through and check how everything prints. Like, that's a real thing. You still do that. So when Kelsey and them made the A5 Shadowdark, They printed them all and they sold them out. So they're going to be there. And I will implore people to pick up PDFs. If you're traveling, bring your core book, but always have all the PDFs. I mean, shit, I can run an entire game. I just did it. I ran an entire game off my iPhone at Chef's Table. I never opened my Surface up. I brought my Surface and went, you know what? I have everything in Goodreader on here. Do I need to? And hyperlinks make it easier for that. And then if those aren't good enough, you're not interested in Shadowdark, you're not interested in TOV, DC20 is going to Kickstarter right now. They're going to have stuff coming out. That's still a D20 system. And for all the fans of Critical Role with Daggerheart coming out, guys, there's no reason to give D&D your early money. Make them sweat. Use the rule of dating. Don't call them back right away. Just make them sweat. Make them sit and wonder if shit's going to be okay. Because that's going to do more than anything else. And I say that because you remember what happened when everybody canceled their D&D Beyond subscriptions? They lost their goddamn minds. They changed OGL back. It has power. It has power in anything you do, from corporate down to, if you want to talk politics in your life, same thing. Put your money where your mouth is. Don't pay these fucks. Just don't. Because all the people who already got paid. And remember, once things ship, they're prone to firing people. Just like a video game company. If you don't remember D&D laying off a bunch of people because the numbers weren't where they wanted them to be. You don't remember that? I'm not saying that all of us need to be ethically minded consumers. I'm just saying there's other things that are ethical out there that you can play without just fucking everything up. So, yeah, man. Not fucking happy about this. Not happy about this at all. What do you guys think? The audience has been talking a little bit. Let's go back over the audience and kind of see what they're saying here. And if you're watching this video, and this is the one I cut from the stream, go watch the full stream. We're going to dive into a lot more of this. This is just from the center of it. But I just wanted to get this off my chest. And again, just to clarify everything, when we are looking at this sheet for 2024 D&D a la 5.1, they are asking you to buy a bunch of digital product in advance as like a bonus. You're getting digital dice sets, frames, backdrops, early access, 2 weeks. And I don't even know what the master tier is. I looked on the site. I can't find the master tier. Where is that? Does anyone in the audience know what the master tier is? If you are watching this on YouTube later, down below, maybe time has passed. Can someone please put what the master tier versus the hero tier is in the comments so I can pin them or write something up and put them up so people can stay informed. I never expected EFP to become news related. I told myself I wouldn't. I grew up in a newsroom. I enjoy reporting on it. And I believe that news that is important should be non-biased. But I think in the tabletop industry and the hobby industry, people are biased because it's passion. It's about what they're doing. And I'm not reporting this to you as a, look at this book. This book is beautiful and well-made. And this well-made book allows you to play D&D with all your friends, digitally or at a table. That's not what I'm doing. I'm telling you, this company is being a bunch of twat waffles. They're being this, and we should stop them. Because it's not okay. Get your stuff from a local store. Get your stuff from Amazon if you have to, if you want to pay a different corporate overlord. But just get it somewhere local. Go in, buy the books there. Fuck, pre-order it from them. Go in there and say, hey, I'd like to get the Player's Handbook. Because I promise you, a lot of these digital extras that we're getting are going to be things if you like one of those 12 dice sets, you can just buy that dice set for $5. If you like that frame, buy it for $2. If you like the backdrop, buy it for $1. But you don't need to buy all of them. You're probably not going to use them all. Hell, hopefully you can upload your own. If you can't, welcome to the walled garden of D&D, where everything you want, they make and create, and there's no external sources. And my last note on this, before we go back to the live show, just live, is this. And this is kind of, people are going to be mad at me. You took away a la carte from D&D Beyond. And a la carte allowed people to buy the class that they wanted versus buying a whole book. And I've watched you change as a company over the last, decade. You were creating great games for a long time. And we all love the brand. We love the ampersand of a dragon. We love wearing your stuff. And we like D&D because it's in our root and in our blood as tabletop players. What I don't love is when you started combining to save money and make money, your adventures for the GM side of things and the player side of things, and you fucking sandwich them into one book. Because the players don't want to buy it for the 3 pages of extra content of things that they get to play, those character classes, those possible races, those pieces of equipment, and the GM has the rest of the book for them to run games. I'm not going to talk about your antiquated adventure design, because I know you want it that way for a reason. But when you took a la carte away from D&D Beyond, which is great, because if they wanted something from that book of whatever came out for Spelljammer that you failed at, whatever that one piece is, they could buy it and enjoy that as a consumer still. So now you're making them buy the entire book to get that data, which is bullshit. Because if they don't want that whole book because they're not running the fucking adventure, you should let them buy it a la carte. And in the comments in that Facebook post that I have, that I'm looking at from D&D, people are talking about how I'll never go back until a la carte comes back. And I agree. People don't want to spend $50 every time to get a book with some rules, maybe for the player, but most for the GM, because your books are really adventures, that part of the book is a little bit for the PCs. No one wants that crap. Players will buy your other games, like, you know, Tasha's Cauldron and Xanathar's Guide, and things that make sense for them, like Player's Handbook Plus or whatever the fuck you end up calling it. But no one wants to pay for a full digital book when they just want the one class, that one feat. A la carte, it still earned you money. And now without that, you're not going to get those people who would have just bought those individual things. I don't know, man. I feel like a kid that grew up, that idolized their parent, found out that their parent was really just Smithers from The Simpsons. And you found out who they really were. And that's how I feel with Wizards of the Coast now. I feel like just Smithers sitting behind the desk, rapping their fingers, doing everything they can to take money from us instead of giving us quality product, and stop cutting the things that people want, stop changing the things that people cry for to make their annual numbers look better to whoever their investors are or whatever the fuck god they worship. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's not okay. So I will not be pre-ordering this. I don't even know if I'll buy the book. I'll grab it from someone and read over it. I'll find the PDF somewhere. We all know the rules. We've heard it. All the Adobe stuff. If you're not going to price it fairly, we'll pirate it fairly. It's kind of how people do things nowadays. Now, I would never do that, of course. But maybe. Maybe. So, D&D, if you want to redeem yourself, take your head out of the sand and look around at all of your fans that are angry. I know you're placating the ones who don't know better, and you're hoping that that audience stays with you. But I think you have a lot to fear with the release of this game, because of all the ones releasing around you, from Dragonbane to Shadowdark to Tales of the Valiant to DC-20 to MCDM to Daggerheart from Critical Role, like all these other companies that have things coming out and their audiences that are involved. And that's not even including the new streaming tabletop service coming out called Moonbeam. We don't even know 100% how that's going to go. But if they can help build communities around games that don't have communities, you're in trouble. Not a threat. That's just business facts. So you can be at the top of the game, but everyone's going to eat away at you like a dying fucking whale. Remember that. Or you can do the right thing and give the people what they want. Remember when you changed the OGL back? Everyone was happy. People looked away from all your shitty decisions. You know, it's like bringing flowers home when you're out too late, except you did way worse. That's it from me here for this lovely piece. If you're watching this YouTube video, I'd love to hear your comments down below. I am going to keep reporting on this as this comes out because, you know, I was trying not to be an angry person on the internet. Even though, Drew, this video was for you, we all know that my anger makes you happy. And I've decided that maybe I am going to be a little more opinionated when it comes to this stuff. I never will be like that during a live show. I'll never be like that during our actual plays, that kind of stuff. I'll never do that. But clip this stuff, share it. If you like what I have to say, share it. Because I think that this is bad. It's just bad. It tastes bad. Thanks for the Toxico kibble. That's what I'll say. Thanks for that kibble. Enough of this shit. Thanks for watching this. There's videos on the side for you to watch, and there's going to be a subscribe button. Please do that. We're trying to hit our 500. Also, a quick shout out to the OGGM. Thanks for shouting me out on your Saturday stream, I think it was. It was really nice of you. To the rest of you, as always, I am here to represent gaming and what I love in it. And if you don't love what I love, that's fine. There's a lot of other creators out there. Go find them and fuck off. All right, so we're done recording. We're going to go back to the live stream here, everybody. Let's talk just us for a little bit here. How do you guys feel about this? How does this, like, are you going to buy D&D with this? Like, I am a huge fan of the IP. I'm a huge fan of the product. I'm a huge fan of just tabletop in general. And I'm a big fucking fan of the history of tabletop. And I think the history of tabletop is what gets forgotten too often. It has been. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Rogue, I agree. It's not good. The writing has been on the wall for a long time. It has been on the wall for a long time. And I just looking at this screen, the fact that they're giving us microtransactional, not even microtransactional, early access FOMO video game company hurts my brain. I am surprised, but not surprised at all. You know what I mean? And there, so like, let's do something that I didn't do during the little recording there. I want to look at, there's been a bunch of people who have covered the pre-release. Let me see if I can find this here. Hold on. D&D 5e 2024 Player's Handbook Review. Let's look at a review here. See if I can find a review. Actually, you know what we should do here? Hold on. We're going to go to YouTube. We're going to go to YouTube. All right, everybody. I'm bringing this back up. We're going to Asmongold this shit. Stop the music. Let's look up D&D 2024 Player's Handbook Review. And I'll put their stuff in the chat below. Everything you need to know. Who's this from? Oh, hey, you know what? Normally, everybody, I would go watch another company's stuff. For example, I definitely am going to watch Nerd Immersion. He's awesome. But I think what this came out, what? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Can you guys hear this? I can't hear it. Can you hear it?
This game for a decade.
There we go.
Will find whole new ways to customize their characters, you know, between the different class features, the subclass options, the new feats, the new equipment options, the new crafting.
So, first off, I will never, you should be able to hear it now. I turned it back on. I'm turning the music down, but I do want a little music in the background for this. So, I'm going to replay this, actually. So, the art is always good. This is never a question.
Rules, the new spells, the revised spells, you combine all of that, and this is like having the game that you're...
I feel bad. I don't know how much decision-making these two make. Like, end game. Like from the C-suite down. I've met Chris twice. Super nice guy. Jeremy, I think I've met in passing once, but I've played a game with Perkins before. Really nice, really smart guy, knows the history, been in D&D for a long time. And I just don't believe that these two figureheads are the guys that are making the crappy corpo decisions. They're making the game.
Completely like glowed up.
Also, didn't Todd Kendrick, didn't he leave the company? Why is he here still? I thought he left.
It's been very distracting for me because I should be doing my work and doing research, but I'm mostly looking at different character builds now. Using like weapon mastery, how sneak attack works, because there's a lot of
and this is a lot of art.
But it's very simple at the same time. Like
a lot of art.
Momentum as you're reading it and an excitement.
It's turned up all the way.
And that really gets at one of our core goals,
There you go.
which
Make it
was
easier for you.
streamline as much as possible while also trying to make it easier than ever before to engage with the game.
Sure.
While also making it deeper, giving you more ways to imagine your character, more tactical options.
So they're trying to open it up to make it easier to be able to make whatever you want. Like, I get that. I understand that they're doing that. Again, art is gorgeous. They're gonna sell, this game is gonna get sold on the merit of great art and player choice in the game. You'll have choices in the game where you can make whatever you want, but I don't think they're going to keep that on the outside of it, where they're like, hey, you get to do this, but, no.
We have specially focused when it comes to tactical options on making the weapon experience more rich. So if you're playing a weapon-focused
martial classes
character,
did kind of
you
suck
are going to
in D&D.
have a level of tactical
That's true.
excitement that your character never
At least
had
I think they
before.
did. I don't know about the
You're
rest
going
of you.
to find ways of, from level to level, evolving how your character plays.
Sure.
Because just shifting from using the mastery option of one weapon to using the mastery option of another is going to...
Again, I feel bad. This art's fucking gorgeous. Also, that symbol on the shield is Bane, for those who don't know. That's a Forgotten Realms deity. That's the one I usually played under. In Forgotten Realms, I had a really good Red Wizard of Thay that I loved playing. Like, I have a lot of history with D&D. Like, I have a first edition book in the basement that I stole from my uncle that's signed by Gygax. I didn't know that at the time, but I do now.
To sometimes subtly change how the game plays for you, and then other times not so subtly. It will be a dramatic shift. Now, people who focus more on the magic end of the spectrum
looks like they got some Magic the Gathering artists to me. Don't you guys think? This feels like Magic the Gathering.
Over 100 pages long, close to 400 spells, many revised, a number brand new, some returning from books like Xanathar's Guide and Tasha's Cauldron, but even those reimagined. But also, they're going to have non-combat options that they didn't have before.
So you're going to teach people to roleplay?
Enrich
finally?
Social interaction scenes.
You've remembered that people have to know how to roleplay? Is that what's going down?
That they couldn't before.
I'm proud of you.
We did the same with our weapon-focused.
I'm proud of you.
Again, something that people got to see as a part of the Unearthed Arcana process, that we made sure that classes that before, like say the Barbarian, that were primarily combat-focused, now have ways to contribute out.
Look, all of this sales speech is great. The sales speech comes from the concept of the playtest that they've done, the audience that they had. Do you guys remember, not this April, but last April when they did the Creators Summit and everyone showed up at the Creators Summit and lit their ass on fire because they wouldn't answer any of the questions that they wanted answered about OGL, what's going on with that? That's going to happen again. They have... Okay, so here's the weird thing. A lot of people believe that you don't need rules to role play, like to play your character. And in my opinion, and as I've grown up and played more games and done more things, has changed. I don't think you need to have rules to teach people to role play. I do agree with that. That's a rule line that a lot of people have said, like, well, you should just role play your character. Be that character. But this is the thing. Unless you're a trained actor, unless you have good guidance from a GM or other players at your table, you don't know how to do that. There are people who are actors inherently that just have it in their fucking blood, right? And then there's people who are trained actors because they went to Juilliard or wherever it was to become a better actor. And there's those people went through the training. Tabletop, take that concept of tabletop, how to play tabletop. And you bring D&D down, you put it on the table. Around that table with the 5 players and 1 GM, maybe 2 of them are role players. They really enjoy the role play. And then you're going to have some people who like the combat sessions where they love the nitty gritty square based stuff. Like I have players in my group that love the whole idea of the skirmish, the math behind it and getting those done. And I like it too when I'm not running an actual play. I think playing a private game and the strategy behind moving things is a lot of fun. And I do that with my Patreon game, for example. We're playing Pathfinder 2E. I still love Pathfinder 2E, for those who don't know. I just didn't like it for ETHUANTIA. And when we play that, Trickster, who's in the chat's in it. We play a very tactical game. The whole party got wiped out last time we played. Everyone died besides, I think, the cook. And that kind of play is fun to me. But streaming it, a live play, isn't. And I do think you should teach people how to play their character in a way that makes them comfortable. If that's silly voices for them, perfect. If that's having a moral compass for what they're doing, closer to how Kelly plays her characters, where they have a moral compass, they know what makes them angry, they have secrets, and that's what they play around. That's still role-playing. If you have somebody who is a tactician and they talk as themselves but their character, that's still role-playing. That's still role-playing for that person. If they're saying, well, listen, my character's been through like 4 wars. He's a super general. He's done a whole bunch of stuff for the army of Ra, whatever it is. And he's like, I think tactically, if we kick this door down and go in, we need someone breaching from the back. That just makes the most sense to me. And then there was the metagaming phase. And I was definitely a part of that, where I hated people who were metagaming. Like, your character doesn't know what that monster would be. Why would you do that? I think when you set the idea of, everyone talks about the session 0, and for session 0, a lot of people go with the veils and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's true. You should be talking to people about what they're comfortable with a new game, with new players. Like if you're running something online for the first time, but if it's your home group, if you haven't had a conversation about like what you're not comfortable with, you guys should all be friends if you're playing at home. You know what I'm saying? You should be talking about that shit at home. But when you sit down and play that, and instead of those lines and veils for the entire fucking session 0, should be building your party and the GM and the players talking about what type of campaign they want to run. 50-50 combat to role play. Is it going to be diplomatic intrigue? Hey, we're playing Legend of the Five Rings. There's a lot of diplomacy, but when we have action, it's fast and people die. It's big. Those kind of things. You have to have everyone in the same mindset. If I'm going to run an investigation game, my players need to know we're running an investigation-based game so they can all have something to add in, like a true investigator, a sidekick that's good at it, someone who has contacts throughout the city. That's the stuff that should be happening so people can ground their roleplay. And metagame isn't bad. Metagaming sometimes shows player growth. It shows their time in it. And if they like to flex that they know something about a monster, and I have changed my perspective on this. Listen. If you fight an ogre and they say, oh, ogres are known for doing X, Y, and Z, you're right. That is what the broad case of ogres are known for. As a GM, I believe our job is to change shit up for veteran players or players who've been playing for a while. So when they encounter that ogre, instead of going, you're right, yeah, they carry tree chunks and they hit people with them and, they're powerful and they eat people. You have one that comes in and the first thing it does is cast magic and that person goes, oh, shit. I'm like, this is different than what you know. Would you like to make a check? Because that lets the player and the player character gain new knowledge. Anyway, that's how I have been running things as a game master over the last couple of years. I like players to be able to educate themselves and funnel it into the characters they're playing. And if they play a character that's not smart, people can be not smart and still have a lot of experience in life, right? And player characters can be the same thing. But anyway, I don't know if we're going to go through all this
outside,
but we'll try.
There was no corner of the game that we did not zero in on.
Including how to make money. You really zeroed in on that part.
And
zeroed in on that.
Build the new Dungeon Master's Guide and the new Monster Manual. Every part of the game, whether it relates to the combat pillar, the exploration pillar, or the social.
All you're doing is showing me awesome art. You're not showing me any of the rules. Do we get to anything that has rules?
To play.
Hold on.
And
what is this? What's new? This first section's what's new.
Didn't even get to see as a part of the Unearthed Arcana.
Ugh. Why? That looks like a photoshopped image. Does it not? I guess it's painted. Maybe that guy's just a dope-ass painter, but that looks like a photoshopped image. He might just be a dope-ass painter, whoever that is. Or they. He or she. I don't know who fucking did it.
a process. Great example of that in the player's handbook are the brand new crafting rules.
There were always moments in the last 10 years of playing the game that you're like,
oh, I'm going to pause. I just saw this, Serving Hands. I apologize. One of my GM buddies told a PC that once he dropped the accent, he started using for his character. He'd have a -1 to every roll as a consequence for dropping out a character. Look, if you start with an accent and that's how you're going to roleplay your character, you're basically setting the tone for your GM on how you play your character. I do actually kind of agree with that. It's funny though. It's a good in the moment thing. That's fucking hilarious. That's actually really funny.
You sometimes would find a moment, I wish I could do this, or I could wish there was a rule for that. Well, now there is. Like, if I wanted to use my sneak attack to knock out a target, rather than kill them, that's there now.
Yeah, ROLO.
As a barbarian, if I want to feel like I'm channeling something primal in myself and maybe use my strength score to actually inform, like, perception.
Great art yet again. Like, dude, this looks like it's from Dragon Age. Looks like Dragon Age art. Oh, thanks, bud. Look, dude. For those who don't know, Bleak Knot is a dear friend of mine. I've known him for numerous years. We lived together for a long time. He's seen me rage about things many times over the years. And I kept it calmer than normal, Todd. My rage didn't hit peak levels. I kept it tapped in, right? You know what I'm saying? But they fucked up. That's all there is to it. They fucked up.
There's a moment where you can do that, and that's why I'm so obsessed with making new combos. What's the most exciting thing for you, Chris?
Combos are great.
Nailed down. There's a lot of things.
Do you guys think this is scripted?
Information has been reorganized in the book, so I can find things easily.
And look, they're blurring the text. We can't even fucking see the text. I'm not here for just the art, boys and girls.
A lot of players having a centralized place where all the rules are very clearly.
This just makes me want to make my own system so much.
But on a more selfish level, I am delighted by the weapon.
That's dope art.
Jeremy and I were in a game recently.
Dig that a lot.
I was playing a fighter, but we were playing basically 2014 characters.
It's very good to hear that they are still playing games. You know what I mean? Like, I know with other companies I talk to that are in tabletop RPGs, like, they do play test, but like, your time for playing games dips way down. It does make me happy to hear that they're playing this. By the way, I'm still going to flame them again when this is all over. Like, I have a lot to say. I'm just writing notes.
And having play tested the weapon mastery stuff for the better part of a year now, it was a bit of a shock to go back to a fighter that didn't have that. And I think a lot of players who like hitting things with weapons are going to be as delighted as I have been. I feel
Great Dwarf
playing a fighter without it now rather naked and exposed.
Sure.
But it is like a remarkable feeling. Like, you have it not only drives, like, I'm swinging a sword, but I'm also doing this. Like, maybe I'm using this weapon, maybe I'm knocking you back. Maybe I missed.
But this isn't new. I'm going to claim this now. I feel like I see trends pretty well in industries I'm involved with heavily. And I think a lot of people have that sense, but don't say it. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not saying that. Nostradamus is not my thing. But of course you're changing this stuff and adding knockback and things like that. Your game is 10 years old. And other companies that are, third party of OGL or other, I'm going to say other AAA studios. I think that anyone who's putting out high-end content is still a high-end content producer. I think the idea of AAA comes from video games and it shouldn't be ported over to tabletop. I think that's something since OGL, my brain has kind of switched on. But yes, of course you're going to add knockback and things like that in there. We've watched companies like Paizo do it. The Age system, like Dragon Age, has stunt points that are used that if you get a certain combo of numbers, you get stunt points to spend to do extra things, which, by the way, if you have not played Dragon Age, I love that mechanic. That system for stunt points is great, and it's for combat and RP purposes. Like, you can get a forward tactical position if you're scouting, if you get enough stunt points and stuff like that. So of course they're going to add some of this stuff. Dragonbane did the same thing. Dragonbane has little boxes that pop out, so to speak, and you can pick things that are more advanced. Certain weapons do certain things in Dragonbane. And I think when we get Dragonbane Advanced, because it's going to fucking happen, because they listen to their audience, unlike a certain video that we're watching right now, I think you're going to see that happen as well. That's my prediction. So I think we're going to see a lot of things about people, and you can see I've never watched this, people predicting, are people adjusting D&D right now so that they have things like knockback actions, making martial combat a little bit better, a little more tactical. I also think because they have their own virtual tabletop, they think they can get away with more of this kind of physics. Eventually, you're not going to be playing a tabletop game anymore. You'll be playing a simulated tabletop game.
Exactly. Still grazing you and doing damage. And you're making now choices that make those weapons important. Like if you're using a scimitar, a dagger, if you're using
I do agree with
crossbow,
this.
There's an advantage to it. It has a tactic to it. Like I can't imagine martial classes without this now.
Yeah, I think one
because
of the amazing things
people have been
about
doing it for ages.
this
They've
opportunity
homebrewed
to
it.
Revise the books is
Why wouldn't you?
we can do more wish.
Why wouldn't you say people did this?
Because we're building on a system that is
No,
sound.
you're building on a system that other people made amazing content through the DMs Guild, and you're now poaching it with no credit.
And tried and true and that people love. We can now
Not wrong.
take 10 years
Not
of
wrong.
feedback of, oh, I wish the game did this, or I wish this class did that, and deliver on those wishes.
It also means that with the core rules in the book, so, you know, in addition to all the fun character options and whatnot,
Great art.
rules
That looks like
themselves
Shadowrun.
that run the game
The
have
elf
also
does.
been enhanced, where we were able to take things that maybe have been house rules for people over the past 10 years and make them a core part of the game. A great example of this. Many people over the last 10 years have allowed people to drink potions as a bonus action, feeling it was way too punishing. Running the rules is
I think that's true. Todd and I, when we were running Magic and Monsters and playing it, we talked about. I think it might have been when we put ETHUANTIA into 5e for a little bit. We talked about how drinking potions, the action economy, and I think honestly Matt Colville hammered home how the action economy works the best out of everybody. But I do agree with you. I feel like they put so much in the artwork to make up for the lack of progress with the functioning of the game itself. I think they don't want anyone to know what the game does yet. But I will say, I feel like, and this is just my opinion, I'm trying to raise my stool here. I feel like that when you are playing D&D and you go to drink a potion and the GM goes, that's an action. If the game was just moving actions, you would not argue. But because the game has had added or has had since the beginning, let me see if I got these right still. Action, move action, reaction, bonus action, free action. So 5 different action economy, the hand of actions. That's what I'm dubbing it. From now on, it's the hand of actions. It's 5 different actions. And because of those 5 actions, having potion be an action to drink felt like a lot. But that's because it was an action to pull it and drink it, right? I think when you had the Bandolier from, and correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, 3.5 and Faerun had a potion belt where you could quick pull from a potion belt and drink. And we carried that through every edition since 3.5, if I remember correctly. They should have learned back then from 3.5 about their action economy when they built the new one. They should have. The 5-fingered action economy. Yep, that's from now on. That's what it's called. The 5-fingered action economy. I'm dubbing it. It's mine. I own it. Trademarked.
They were written in 2014 to have to spend your entire action drinking a potion. Particularly scary if you're
Nobody wants
dying
to.
and you're drinking that healing potion. And so people are going to find that now healing potions take a bonus action to drink. And there are shifts like that.
There is cheering happening right now while this video is playing.
Yeah, and there are shifts like that everywhere you look in the rules.
And I'm stopping this. We're going to be stopping this a lot because first off, I have to cover 50% of this for us to watch this video without getting hit. No one's cheering, dude. What they're saying is we already do that in our home games. The only people who will be cheering about this is organized play.
Like the game you've been playing,
That's it.
but everywhere you look, enhanced.
As you are looking through the player's handbook, as you're making your character, there's such intentional design behind everything. Every piece of art, the layout. I can flip through this book and in seconds know where I am.
all of those choices were very intense.
I have heard the layout is a lot better.
Often with our books,
this pencil art's dope.
We will write and then we
love this kind of art.
In the process,
I've liked this since War.
With the
War doing pencil art
to come up with
it's good
how the book is going to look. In this case, the art director.
I think I can see a prompter in his classes.
Were a part of the conceptualization
Which is fine.
Of the book from the very beginning.
The text and art has just completely gone.
Let's pause this because I do want to talk about this section, but let's bring this up. Potion belts, potion bracers. I forgot about bracers. They became necessary for every character at that point, just to make drinking a potion a free action, right? I think a bonus action is a good way to do it. There should be a compromise when you drink something. It shouldn't be like, oh, it's free now. It should be, it takes part of your 5 action economy, but it shouldn't be your core action. I should be able to quaff a potion. Look. Okay, all of you people who, if you ever come out here and you see me where I work, we are at a dock bar when I work in the summer. And we are firm believers in having fun at this bar. I just worked 3 days in a row there. It's raining now. They're still there. I guarantee rain. And we have little cornitas. And when we open a cornita, because we're busy, it's a race for who can finish it first. And whoever finishes it first walks away. The last person has to throw all the bottles away. That's kind of like our in-house little rule. But I promise you I could quaff a potion bottle while still beating someone's ass. I'm just saying. Definitely doable.
Gone hand in hand throughout this whole process. The art style hasn't changed because we still have a lot of amazing returning.
I feel like the art style did change.
To join us in this adventure. They have such a wonderful sense to bring in their own experiences, their own takes on our art orders. So I mean, we truly did do it with intention. But
I did not know that. I did not remember that. That's actually real. I might bring that into Dragonbane.
Beyond into the next level.
There's a lot of stuff that went into the covers. We kind of wanted to approach them all up as a set. So working with Tyler Jacobson across all 3 was a really great experience because he had also done the...
What do we think about this art? What do you guys think about the art for the players, monsters, and DMG? I love they put the monster manual in the middle, even though we're not getting it to 2025. What do you guys think? Potion bracers are awesome. That's a great... I forgot about that. I'm literally typing out right now. Potion bracers add to ETHUANTIA. Because that's such an ETHUANTIA item. I would be an idiot not to add that. Thanks for reminding me. I think this art's okay. I mean, I'm a fan of beholders. We all know that. Like, I love me some beholders. Can I scroll in? No, you can't. I love beholders. I think beholders are fantastic. They're one of my favorite monsters in D&D. Player's Handbook's okay. Gold Dragon. It's pretty. Look. We don't know. I know the covers are made by humans. I know that for a fact. I don't know how the inside of this is going to look. I'm curious to see that. I can tell you that there is a project going on right now that artists are using AI to put pictures through it to let you know if it's an AI generated piece, like an AI checker. It's like an AI checker. I love iconography. Like if I put out a book, I want the cover to be a piece of iconography. I think a piece of iconography, a logo or something on a cover does much more than art. And the only reason I say that is because every book around it, either have it be digital stores where, it's just a bunch of fucking art everywhere, or at a bookstore where you're seeing a spine only. I think iconography stands out and it is stronger. I've said this since Forever Interactive, and I've been proven right numerous times that having iconography on the front is more important than art, because that icon, that look, is going to be everywhere. The War Lantern from ETHUANTIA will be on the cover of the fucking book. It's on the cover of this. When Patrick made this for me, I said, I want 2 things. I want the logo for ETHUANTIA, and I want the War Lantern for ETHUANTIA, right? This is the thing that I want on my journal. I want this big honking journal for ETHUANTIA to be a tome for life. This is what I want. And I think having this kind of look stands the test of time better. And 3.5 had that. If you guys are not familiar with the history of D&D, back when 3.0 and 3.5 were made, the player's handbooks were physical, handcrafted pieces that they took photographs of. No fucking joke. We were, man, I can't remember if it was at Gen Con the last year here or the first year in Indy when they had 3.5 go out and you could go and look at them. The books were their hands-on. I talked to the guy who crafted them about making my ETHUANTIA books, and he's like, I would love to do it. He told me the prices, and it's definitely not something I can afford right now, but Brian Collins, who made Vast Grim, is a sculptor who makes all this amazing shit. And I asked him, would you be willing to make a book cover that I could put on display at a booth when ETHUANTIA and Breachers come out? I would love to have the Breachers shield with the bee on it be sculpted and like chrome that bee. Because Breachers is really going for that like heavy metal fantasy, because it's medieval fantasy with brand new industry slapped on top of it very fast. So it's kind of like scattered showers of technology. Not even tech, just industrialness. But anyway, back to this. I think iconography goes further.
The covers before, so when at least he had done the Player's Handbook and he had done the Dungeon Master's Guide in 2014. So
I recognize
this guy. To kind of reapproach.
I wish they put their name at the bottom. Did they put that guy's name at the bottom? Did I miss it?
Figure out what that was. And we definitely referenced second edition, you know, and easily Elmore, you know, that sort of original D&D artwork.
Yes, dude, Marduk.
Some of that flavor, especially in the shape language and the colors and sort of just the compositions. And
I'm not a fan of that Beholder.
A little bit of that.
It's okay. I'm a favorite.
Fantasy vibe, right? So hopefully all three of the covers kind of give you a little bit of that.
And for the new player's handbook, the art we have here, these are some famous D&D heroes.
Yeah, they brought the D&D heroes.
You've got the gold dragon, and you've got the red dragon below, and the most vicious looking kobolds I've ever seen. Probably in D&D.
Those kobolds are, I like them better than the Paizo Skittles. I don't like the Skittle Goblins. Never been a fan.
That's something we've talked about before with all the art.
Although, do you think that the Paizo kobolds could really be turned into Care Bears? The Care Balds? Just saying.
It always feels like almost like a photo.
Yes.
In a moment of an adventure, whether it's right before something happens or the apex of something happening.
Art's great.
But it feels like a day in the life.
There's a lot of art and not a lot of
that's intentional, right?
substance to me.
Provide storytelling
in this 1 hour interview.
Images. We wanted to give you, the players, the fans, somebody that
10 minutes in.
An image, like you said, that is a snapshot in time. But ideally, we try to focus that snapshot in time right before an event has happened or right after an event has happened. Like you said, the gold dragon and the red dragon and sort of this party in the middle and the kobolds coming from the side and what is going to happen, who's going to win, right? You know,
I mean, not the kobolds. That's not a fucking thing, everybody.
Very much
it's just not.
Of it, but right before the real action happens, right? Like almost like at the end of round one in a way. Yeah. So what's the rest of the fight going to be? The person that gets picked up by the tentacle is your unlucky party member for sure. Probably happens to them every game all the time. And then on the DMG, you've got sort of we very much also reference previous editions with the cover of the door being opened, right? So what does it look like?
Oh yeah, I guess it does. I hope they have stats from the Marduk. I don't recognize the woman caster though.
What is that set?
Like, this is awesome looking. I know I saw a description of who this is supposed to be when they were showing the concept art off for it. It's a great concept art. I don't know who the woman is though. Is that supposed to be Tiamat maybe? I don't know who that is.
Case or that show piece that
somebody else knows. Put it in the notes or put it in the comments.
Cover, you've got sort of your multiple casts of characters, all the way from your grunts down to your skeletons to Avenger, sort of your campaign level villain, or Warduke and sort of a
maybe their own diss. I doubt it.
Of a campaign, right? And
they've always been descendants of dragons in
something that has a lot to look at that you can pull a lot of storytelling out of. Hopefully,
I'm not going to pull storytelling out of the cover of the book. I mean,
there was so much planning that went ahead before these subclasses art because there's 48 of them.
Yeah.
And Josh Herman and I
that's cool looking.
Worked on this giant matrix of like the characters.
Again, fucking what is this battle bar? This chick looks like she's glammed up for a rock show, right? Same here. This guy got cool looking fantasy archer. Looks like a monk brawler.
Okay, like, are we covering our tieflings? Are we covering our halflings? Like, make sure that we just have a wide variety of characters.
Great art, man.
Because 48.
Todd, if you spot an AI-generated art while this is going on, let me know. If you're like, look, extra finger, let me know. Let me know if anyone notices that.
So some that
I got a plan.
Into the tropes, and others that kind of were a nice, unique new spin. An example of how I hope this art will inspire others is that I've never wanted to really play a spellcaster. I'm like, it's too hard. It's
Spellcasters
so
aren't hard.
You have to manage, and I'm sure
You just actually have to read the book for once. All players should read the fucking book.
Holy moly, you know, like the wizards. I'm like, okay, I would absolutely jump into playing a character like that. And I'm hoping that's what this art will do to inspire some of our players.
We mapped out
the art's great. You guys succeeded there.
Subjects we wanted portrayed in the art, but the style of the art in
is this shot really boring?
That's why when you look at the character creation chapter, there's line art, because we wanted you to have this sense of when you're making a character.
I really have to question this. I love line art in books when all of the book, besides maybe the cover or the spells or the back, I don't like line art unless it's like backdrop pieces, right? Unless the whole book's that way. But them giving a reason for it right now, look, I went to art school. I know how to sell my piece. And if I don't put it in color and if the job was to create evocative art, and that evocative art is in color, and my job in art school was to sell it. And I said, well, I kept it in a pencil sketch style because I wanted you to feel like you could make the character and grow it and what it could look like. Immediately, my art teacher would be like, that's great. The process, showing it's great. I need to see a final color piece then so that your players or whoever is looking at this art also knows what the concept of a finished person would look like. I would get flambéed for doing that unless the job was tight pencils. Correct me if I'm wrong, Todd. We went to the same fucking school, but we would have got lit on fire in the round room of doom. There's no way this would have been okay unless it was supposed to be tight pencils.
You're like writing with pencil, and many of us, when we're making a character, will change our minds a bunch of times. You know, whether we're making the character on D&D Beyond or
let's still talk about art.
You know, typing it on our laptop.
We're almost done with art. We got like a minute left of art.
We'll think, we'll change, we'll go back, and so we wanted the art itself to subtly point at that process.
Why is there a brand in the lower right-hand corner and a brand?
But then when you get to your class,
why is there a double brand?
Where you're making the most important choice for your character.
Okay, I'm gonna be a dick. Right now, I'm gonna be an asshole. This video got uploaded. In the lower right-hand corner of their stuff, they have the subscribe button, always here because they are there. They should know when they're uploading their video, a brand is already there, and they should not be putting a brand in the video that they upload. That brand should be there for other videos going out for media production. But the double brand looks like you don't even know your own fucking platform. Am I being nitpicky? Yes. But you're a corpo that wants my money, that wants me to pre-order shit that that costs $180. Let's just call it what it is. But you can't even remember how YouTube works.
Class, you are just dazzled by full
disrespect
pieces of art for every class.
Be professionals if you want my money, professionals.
Every single subclass. Then it keeps going in
I'm
terms
still angry,
of the beauty when you then get to the character origins chapter and you see the different backgrounds available to your
That's
character.
Fucking awesome splash piece.
They're literally backgrounds.
I believe environmental art sells a game better than character art because it's about where you're adventuring. I think that 70% of the art in a book should be this stuff.
That your character will be inserted into.
How many of you want to bet that these fucking splash pieces of art are those background pieces that they're talking about here? These backdrops is 5, 5, and 15. How much you want to bet these fucking panoramics they're showing right now? That's the fucking shit that they're going to say you get for your backgrounds when you're playing on their fucking virtual tabletop. How much you want to bet? Think I'm right? I think I'm right. I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to fucking be. And they're probably just 2-page splashes in the fucking book.
Right. But also, more than that, the backgrounds themselves have all been redesigned, and the entire background system has been reimagined as one half of your character's
Then it shouldn't be in that spot, Todd.
Half being your character's species.
You should know that this piece is here. You should have put that brand to the left. You should have put it somewhere else. It should not be under the under brand. You shouldn't do that. Upper right-hand corner, lower left-hand corner, wherever you want to put it, it should not be under the under brand that is on your site.
And the two together interlock to give you a view of who your character was before they became an adventurer.
You know it's there. And I'm going to be picky because they fucking deserve for people to be picky right now. You get no take-backs when you're this company.
And that free feat really informs, like, well, of course, I would have this feat starting off.
Because everyone keeps giving them fucking passes.
That makes perfect sense. I just like how.
And again, I am not mad at the people in this video. These are wonderful people.
Yes, and
clarity.
Not mad at deeper into character origins in one of our other videos. But one of the major
great set piece again. I love the sculpt the statue. Is that a lollipop? Wait a minute. Hold on. Is that a lollipop? Is that for Exandria? Oh no, it comes down and around. Never mind.
Backgrounds is exactly that. That they now give you
ability score. All minor things matter. Minor to big. With this company, everything is getting scrutinized. That's where we should be right now. Everything. There is nothing that they should get away with until they prove they're trustworthy again. Every fucking mistake.
And if you select that background, you then choose how you want to distribute
big to small
there. So you can either have +2.
You're a multi-million-dollar company firing people,
or you can have
if maybe the person they fired was the person who would have been looking over YouTube.
And so you have a tremendous amount.
And I'm not attacking the person who did it. I'm attacking the entire company as a whole. Because I don't know who did that. I don't know that person. Maybe their dog died that week. Great panoramic again. That is fucking gorgeous.
To support as many different character concepts as possible.
How have you?
But we're at the point now where you get no slip-ups. Wizards of the Coast. Like, that's my personal perspective. You don't get slip-ups anymore.
I was like, what'd you do on the player's
We're done.
Well, let's see.
Okay, so now we're into what they did.
In the room hashing out the outline for the book.
Yep.
With our good friend and former boss Ray Winninger early on. So I had a hand in sort of sculpting the shape of the book.
You were with me, serving hands. You get it. You get it. You get what I'm saying.
And then I injected myself at various points everywhere.
That's cool looking.
I could creating.
It's just artwork. It's artwork. That's all we're seeing.
Rewriting text from the 2014 book.
Why do you think they're not showing us, and this is not me picking, this is like a legitimate question. We know that the Player's Handbook comes out in September. It's already done. It's in print. It's been in print probably since average print cycle is 3 months if you're not there during the Chinese New Year, because Chinese New Year really messes up printing. I'm pretty sure they print out of China. If I remember correctly, Wizards of the Coast brought their own printing company, but I don't remember if it was US side. So let's say that they went to print in April to have it done August, ships to retailers for September release, because we don't know when in September. I don't think there's not a hard date, is there? Hold on here. Is there a hard date? It just says September, I think. 17th. 17th. Okay, so it goes to print. Well, I guess what I'm trying to figure out here is if they have all this art already and they're showcasing all this art and they're going to print, why aren't we seeing the text of it? Like, why aren't they showing us more of the rules and the splash pages from the rules? This is only 2 weeks ago. Like, people want to know what they're buying. Like, this art is evocative and great, and a lot of it is doing its job, but why aren't they giving us what is actually different? Like, showing us the breakdown of a class. I hope we get to that at some point.
To make it suitable for the 2024 revision.
I don't really like this modern take. I hope that's not in the book.
Chris, Ray, and I,
unless it's in like it's going to be the GM manual.
And what people are going to see when all 3 books are out is that intentionality that you talked about, Todd.
Okay, ready for me nitpicking? I fix my glasses when I'm at work all the time. My sunglasses. By the way, I got some new free sunglasses. They're dope.
To see when all 3 books are out is that
fix his glasses
that you talked about.
So that's a tick for pausing to remember what you're doing. Also, that you don't feel comfortable.
Not only carefully
and the fact you can punctuate that way. I know that there's a guy who does a bunch of miniature wargaming stuff out of Wisconsin here, but a lot of times when you push your glasses up in the middle of a video shoot, not always, but a lot of times, you're trying to remember something. It's like people who look up. But also, if you're uncomfortable with what you're about to say, which is when all the books are out, I know I'm nitpicking, but That's a normal thing to say. We haven't seen this guy touch his glasses once yet.
Very carefully plotted out the Dungeon Master's Guide, and very carefully plotted out.
Could be a nervous tick too. Don't get me wrong.
And plotted out how the 3 books integrate with each other.
Okay.
And so in many ways,
we're not going to see that.
The 3 books as one massive book that's simply too big to publish.
I like that. That art is gorgeous. This is smart art. This is way better than the other art. Like conceptually, I like the look of these a lot.
About 1,000 pages long.
And that speaks again to the intention of design on all of this. It is remarkable to see how these are all interconnected. I mean, this is an amazing day because this is the first day you can pre-order all 3 books.
Oh yeah, first day you can pre-order all 3 books.
So much friendlier to a new Dungeon Master, and what I've heard is so exciting. And everything I've heard about the Monster Manual. And it does feel like this is one cohesive project in a way that we haven't seen before.
Okay.
So cohesive that
what do we add
there
here?
is essentially a piece of the Monster Manual in the player's handbook.
Right.
Classes and subclasses are next.
To coordinate the work in a way that we had never done before.
All right.
Where that was essentially Monster Manual work we were doing.
And feel free to put comments in here as we're watching this. I'll definitely answer you guys what we're doing.
Building the creature appendix that is in this player's handbook. The new creature appendix is even bigger than the one that was in.
Why is there a creature? Was there a creature appendix in the normal 5e? For player's handbook? I know the player's handbook came out first. Just it happens every time frame. A lot of times they can't print all 3 books because you can't get all 3 books through printers well enough. I personally believe they could print all 3 books and box them together and sell a box set by just loading up their warehouse and then putting them out. We watched it with Invisible Sun. They put out an entire fucking 60-pound cube of data that's like cards and 3 books and everything else. So it is feasible to do. Monty Cook Games could do it, which is, in the top, I would argue to say top 5 tabletop companies right now for production. They could have done it with their books, and they're choosing to space them out.
The 2014 PH, the creatures have been carefully selected to be.
Oh, these are like your familiars.
So, great example of this intentionality. Now, when you go to the equipment chapter and you see a list of available mounts,
it would have to be a PDF with hyperlinks on me.
Now
I agree.
Has a stat block in the same book.
100%.
And similarly, when it comes to your familiar options, if you cast Find Familiar, or if
hyperlink drink
Warlock with your enhanced familiar options, all those options
put
are
bourbon
present.
in this.
We also made sure that Druids had a really good starting selection of creatures that they could transform into using Wild Shape. Now, our friends
we need a hyperlink counter.
The Circle of
Might have
Marin
to add that.
subclass, they're still going to need to visit the Monster Manual eventually.
That's adorable.
When they get high enough level.
Looks like he got bit.
Because we simply did not have enough pages in the player's handbook to have all the beasts that Circle of the Moon Druid might want available. But even for them,
right, they'll get that stuff in February.
Of beast options,
February.
So that you can start
great art again
with your main features in this book.
That's adorable. That's actually really cute.
All inside this very book.
Yeah, and because we have 10 years of feedback on the 2014 books, we also knew that we were going to be making some adjustments.
How many takes do you think they had to do when they're like in the 2014 books? Because they can't say that it's D&D 5e because that's basically the same book. They have to put a year date on it.
To our
I bet you they had to do a couple takes for that.
To make our stat blocks.
That's just me guessing. That's just normal.
Fun to run. But that work is not confined only to the Monster Manual. Going back to the idea that this is a 1,000+ page book broken up into 3 pieces. That stat block.
The Bearded Beholder makes me laugh every fucking time I see it. I'm not gonna
all
lie.
3 books.
And you'll see that not only in the creature appendix, but also in the Ranger Beastmaster subclass, where that subclass has been completely redesigned, largely inspired by work we did in Talk.
There's a lot of people who have not been happy with the new Ranger build out. I have not personally looked at it yet. I think Ranger, personally, is the hardest class to rebuild. I know that Kelsey from Shadowdark was talking about that because everyone has an idea of what a Ranger is. From, if you're watching Lord of the Rings, if you are a fan of the idea of the Wayfinder, if you are, if you believe that Rangers are Dristu Orden, like, everyone has their own idea of what a ranger is because it's so iconically used, because they can do a little bit of everything. They're kind of like the melting pot of a class that no one is ever happy with the final ranger build.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, but even going beyond what we did in Tasha's, the stat blocks for that ranger's friends have been redesigned. All of the stat blocks that appear in the new summoning spells that are in the book have
Phantom
been
Seed, that's hot. That looks like it's from Eberron. Straight up Eberron.
View toward making our
don't like that
stat
beholder
blocks
either.
easier
Like the
to
smile.
use. And also,
that beholder looked like it was a ghost from Ghostbusters.
So really getting under the hood of every stat block and making sure that the creature is delivering the goods when it comes to the damage it deals, its resilience, and also its fun.
You mentioned summoning spells, and again, like what I love about the new player's handbook is everything you need is in the new player's handbook. Like if you want to wild shape,
except for the GM stuff.
But the summoning spells have various options.
Nothing for GMs
the
there.
Type of that creature that you want to use. So if it's an aberration, if it's undead, if it's a fiend, you're not just having to select this one type of stat
brush
block
a little bit
creature.
here while we wait for
you
them
have
to
a
talk
variety
this
of
shit.
options. So if
That's
you
kinda
love
how I
summoning and you like to be tactical,
feel about this, because you're
it's
not
just
giving me
layers
anything.
of options with one singular spell, and you have all the stats you need to just run it. You don't need to grab another book and go hunt something down. It's all in the player's handbook.
That's not true though. Like, I guess maybe for the players it's there, and they should. It is there for players to start, because we all know that bloat happens the longer a system is out and more options come out. Hence why everyone's mad about the a la carte being taken away from D&D Beyond. I mean, I'm curious to see how much they do. I don't think this is a new concept. I guess it's new for D&D, but they tried to do that. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Todd, you would know this as well. And I'm saying this because you and I played together for so long. But when 3.0 came out, there was a disc in the back of the book that had like character sheets, like a CD. They had character sheets in it, and it had, the fuck was it? It was character sheets, maps, and something else. I can't remember. And then they tried to do the D&D Insider thing during that time frame, like when they were going into 4th edition. But that's not a new concept, having everything in the player's handbook, because you want your players to be able to sit down and play and not have to have another book right away. That's not new. That's not inventive. That's not reimagining. That's not even updating your system. I feel like the current 5e player's handbook had a lot of that. It lost a lot of it as more books came out, but that's just what happens with any system that comes out. That's not new to me. I don't know. That's not an impressive thing for me.
That was something that people loved when we first introduced it in Tasha's Cauldron.
Yeah, okay.
And so we were excited to be able to take that approach to summoning and incorporate it into the game's core.
Okay.
But even people who are familiar with those spells in Tasha's will have some fun surprises, because all of those spells have been enhanced for the player's handbook.
Good.
And so
that's good.
They, like everything else, are glowed up. And
yeah, they all should
even have other parts of the book where options that maybe first appeared in Tasha's Cauldron now appear here and have been enhanced. Great example, the soul knife in the rogue,
Smart.
the Psy warrior in the fighter, aberrant sorcery in
Great
the
art
sorcerer.
Again.
I bring up
all my psionic boys.
Yes, all a part of our design.
I'm working on a psionic class for breachers right now.
More psionics into the core game.
You got the Psi Knight.
This was
it's gonna be the first
actually
one.
something that we talked about doing over a decade ago in the 2014 Player's Handbook, and we frankly just didn't have time to do it over a decade ago.
I think you had time.
And so we thought, now we have the time. And I like to think of it as the Great Old One Warlock now having their friends show up, so we can you can now have your full your full psionic.
I know this is
crew,
supposed to feel like
whereas
three
before,
friends
in
talking.
2014, the Great Old One Warlock was wondering where all their psionic buddies were, and they've now all shown up for the party.
The Gray Old One is nasty now.
In
Gray
all
Old
the
One
best
is new
ways.
and super nasty. It gets in your head literally to have some nice advantages in combat.
Yes.
That's cool looking.
There are significant, lovely changes to so many of these subclasses.
That's
that
cool
just
looking.
Amp them up.
That's up my
More
jam
what we
right there.
wanted to do more what the kind of core concept was. Again,
New
this
Spider is
is
more
wild
enticing than.
featuring
Yeah, I
Familiar.
was looking to see
You
where
are
it was
just
at. I gotta feed it
everywhere.
today.
You are just bouncing, and with every time you do use Misty Step, there's a new added-on effect.
Good catch.
It just feels like you've made a pact with a fey creature. Like, it makes narrative sense.
that's cool to see that they're doing that. I think that the packs were boring. I hope they touch on Bond's ideals and flaws. To me, I think that had a lot of potential, but was never expanded upon. Like, I was hoping to see some stuff in Tasha's or in like an advanced book. Like, I feel like Bond's ideals and flaws, while they're cool little guidelines to help you RP your character, they should have mechanical pieces to them. Because what I have learned over the years is that if the ideas of what your character is and how they're role played and how they act and how they react to things have mechanical aptitude to them, players are more likely to lean into them because they want that mechanical bonus. Because at the end of the day, the mechanics are the love language that you use to play the game together. I've said this countless times. So I feel that Bond's ideals and flaws, the only thing that happens, and I kind of house ruled it to a point, like when you lean in, you can get an inspiration. You can only use each one once a session. That's not in the book. That's just me going, look, like, fucking, please use this stuff. Like, it takes up a third of the front of the character sheet. Yeah. I hope they do something with that. I'm curious to see if they do. Classes and subclasses so far, nothing's really been fucking said. They're just talking about the player's handbook being crammed full of stuff.
And it gets me excited for like the tactical things I can do with all these subclasses.
We're not going to get shown anything during this.
There might have been gaps before in the 2014 versions.
We're not going to get anything.
Those have been
fuck calling it now.
For that wish fulfillment that we all have.
The Archfey Patron Warlock is a great example of a subclass that didn't just get tweaked. It's basically a new subclass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this book,
it's like they just went through art
brand new
and talk about the art the entire time, and they're never telling us any rules.
We have the Circle of the Sea in the Druid. We have the College of Dance in the Bard, and the Path of the World Tree in the
be excited.
But
words
again,
and names.
Just as the Archfey Patron Warlock has been so redesigned that it's
has it though?
A new subclass. There are other subclasses like that as well.
Give us an example.
The Warrior of the Elements in the Monk.
Well, that's what that is. Warrior of the Elements.
Okay. So heavy.
Oh, wait a minute. Do I see AI?
Reimagined. It's essentially a brand new subclass. The Beastmaster in the Ranger, essentially a brand new subclass. And when we do videos on individual classes, we can dig deeper in other subclasses like them that are essentially...
Is anyone else bored by this besides me? Fuck this. Fucking boring. Hold on. I'm fast forwarding. Here's a link. You want to watch this whole thing on your own? You're welcome to.
And again,
but right now, they haven't told me shit.
No class that uses Weapon Mastery untouched.
What's next?
Like, that has changed.
Okay, let's talk about feats. Fucking, you're not telling me about class.
There are way more feats.
There are a lot of feats.
But this book has 75 feats in it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It includes...
Are feats now part of the game, or are they still fucking optional rules?
Not only a suite of feats that are for first-level characters that they get through their backgrounds, but we also now have epic boon feats.
I'm going to let this play in the background. How many backgrounds are here?
And then between those epic
we're looking for something while he's talking.
Your what are called origin feats that you get at first
48
level,
subclasses.
You have many of the
no, they don't tell you how many backgrounds
available to you before in the 2014 Player's Handbook, along with a number of new feats, some of which have migrated into the Player's Handbook from Tasha's Cauldron and then have been enhanced in a variety of ways. We also have some things in the game that previously existed inside.
They're doing this on purpose.
So a great example of this are the...
Great. All right, you're not going to show me feats. I'm skipping again, boys and girls.
Fact that they were giving us.
What is this? This is Unearthed Arcana and Inspiration. I'm just scrubbing.
There were times when we even
more art
pushed even farther than the fans really wanted to go, but
hey, look,
rein us in a little bit,
guys. If we weren't done with the art, let's talk about creating the covers.
I get something better.
And we're showing you as much art as we can, and layout and page design, and even then, it's not the same as holding it, especially when it comes to like the alt covers as well.
You're not showing us the fucking rules.
Hits the goal.
Just show us the changes, man.
Yeah, the alt covers were really fun as well. We went sort of.
I'm not buying a fucking art book. I know that you have told us that there is a D&D, Dragons of D&D digital art book, but right now I'm watching this to hear what you've changed between 5 in 2024 5.1, you're not giving us anything. Why? Why? This is 2 weeks ago this video came out.
Intentionally the opposite direction than the alt covers. We wanted to do something that was quiet and reserved and really paid homage to these being
They're great.
Books.
They are great. I'm not arguing that.
To TRPG books, right? This is a place.
I wonder who this guy is.
Where they're gonna, you're gonna buy these at your friendly local game
store.
It's
not Hydro, is it? Is it possibly? No, it's not Hydro's art.
Physical object. That sort of classic fairy tale style of book kind of came to mind as an idea.
Yeah, it looks great.
Feels like it both pays homage.
Feels like the college textbooks
like a nice update and similar but different than what we've done before. So,
oh man, that's
and also a very big contrast.
That's statement serving hands.
So for the player's handbook, we've got
that's a statement
of the gold dragon.
We have a gold dragon on the
cover. All right, I'm not gonna.
With some friends.
You guys want to learn about the art? You're welcome to watch it.
And we're hoping people will even read the introduction. We made it super
How
short.
to use the new PHB. This is smart. They need to do that.
The introduction does things like talk about the main components you need to play, which the Player's Handbook in the past has not done.
Hold on.
It also, for anyone coming from the 2014 Player's Handbook, has a really critical sidebar.
Call it now.
That talks about what's new in the book. Also
this did it better.
That this book
teaching you how to play the game.
Is basically
saying
activated in your game.
Could be wrong.
This book does replace the 2014 Player's
I think
Handbook,
they teach you better.
And I think it's important for people to understand that. So we don't have people.
And I am a fan of D&D. I will state this again. I love D&D.
Two Player's Handbooks.
Just tired of being done dirty.
Absolutely use this Player's Handbook with the adventures you already have.
Great art.
Edition.
But you can play a character from this new Player's Handbook.
Oh, this is
a
important.
Character using the 2014
but you can't.
Player's Handbook as well. That's still true.
Absolutely. We have designed the new Player's Handbook so that
get ready, everybody.
Characters built with it can be played with characters built with the 2014 Player's Handbook.
Yeah.
Now,
get ready for me to do this in a minute.
The character options themselves, when it comes to the sort of baseline rules, the combat rules, the definitions of the conditions and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you are playing a 2014 character,
sure,
with 2024 characters, we have designed things so that the 2024 rules are what should be used in that situation.
Yeah.
Because
they supersede. It's the magic stack.
Handle a 2014 character being present, but the 2014 version of the rules will grind in a few places with a 2024 character.
It's old rules. That makes sense.
Of terms used in the 2024 character that only have definitions now in the 2024 rules, whereas you can take a 2014 character and play them in a 2024 game.
So let me summarize this better, because I feel like that so far is not a total explanation. For my research on what I know about classes from 14 to 24, okay, is now all of your archetypes are at like a static level when you get them. They are at a different level in 24 versus 14. And then on top of that, you can do 14 in 2024 because your rules have just been upgraded. But taking a 24 to 14 doesn't work that well because the economy is a little different for actions. Not a lot, just a little bit clarified. But the real big thing is when you get into the archetypes and you're getting them at different levels, the power curve is weird. Now, I as a GM, I have learned more and more that balance is more in the GM's hands and that the rules should give you like a baseline balance. But after that, it's the GM's job to kind of make the balance work. So they should give you a good, rails to go on to ride your ride. But anytime from tabletop to video games that we've tried to see people make things 100% compatible, it doesn't work. Because compatibility would mean that they're the same thing, but they're not. They should be different, right? You're buying a better version of the old thing. Windows 11 can run things from Windows 10, but you sometimes run into errors. So they are never 100% compatible. And my primary example of this is when we all saw Xbox come out, and then they said that the new Xbox was coming out. This is 360 to Xbox. What is Xbox X or Xbone, as everyone called it. but the 360, you're supposed to be able to play all your games on it. And that wasn't true. As more and more time came out and they started going through their library of games on 360, they just kept updating things that were backwards compatible. But things got lost that just they didn't convert. It didn't work. So you lost some of your 360 digital library. And then we went to the new Xbox. And now, from Xbone to X1X or whatever the fuck it's called, even some of that stuff's not 100% compatible. So no matter what happens, everything is not going to work. And they promised on 360 that all your games would be playable. Even with the disc, they weren't. Don't expect 24 to work with 14. Just like Tales of the Valiant runs parallel to 5e, but they're not a one-for-one. And there is in the beginning of Tales of the Valiant, I talk about this in the Tales of the Valiant review that I did, but some of that beginning curve, they're a little more powerful in the beginning of the game. Yes, they can play side by side, but they're not synonymous. They're not exactly the same. So I commend them for trying to make it as close as possible, but that does mean you are not going to get a lot of really big changes. You're just going to get some minor ones.
And that is
clarity is what you're getting.
Like
you're getting clarity.
To drink a potion with a bonus action.
Exactly. You're going to want even your 2014 character to be swimming in a 2024 pool because
you just can't make promises that it does serving hands. You can't make promises.
Absolutely.
But then you'll go from that introduction
and they're not.
Into the first chapter,
they're
which
not making promises.
Teaches all the main rules of the game. Also sort of gets you used to referring to the rules glossary, because the book often, rather than going super deep on a particular rules topic, will give you the basics and then send you to the rules glossary for the nitty-gritty.
Right.
Other times you'll get all of it in one place, depending on, is there a version of the rule that you can learn that's just part of it versus do you need to know all of it at once?
Yeah.
And that first chapter has longer examples of play than we've ever done in a player's handbook
and those
before.
are fantastic. It's like you even have like art of the players around the table, and this happens, and this is what you rolled, and this is how that affected the game.
Along with commentary.
It's the same shit, Todd.
What it is that you're reading about in that example.
What you just said there, that is 100% right. To recap, mostly the same game. The majority of the rules are unchanged. You can still play the old version, but the new stuff is probably better. Oh, wait, I'm talking about PF2 Remastered. That's what they're doing. But they didn't name it Remastered because it's about branding, and they have a brand expert that knows that if they change their name or change anything about it, besides putting a year on it, they harm themselves on a global scale to sell their game. That's just, from a marketing person, that is what's going on. They're keeping their brand intact as much as possible. But whatever.
Of play. When you get to the character creation chapter, you, in addition to seeing the fun line art, are going to be brought step by step through the character creation process in a way that we've never done before, with also a lot of handy sort of get started quick bits in the chapter. Here's an example. When it comes time for you to assign your ability scores, if you've ever struggled, whether you're a brand new D&D player or maybe you're a veteran player but you're playing a class you haven't played before and you've struggled with, well, how should I assign my ability scores? Particularly if you're using the standard array or point buy. Well, we now provide suggested ability score arrays for every class in the book so that you can get started playing quickly. Do
you know what solves this entire problem they're talking about right now? First off, for new players, I agree you should have something that's easy. It's called pre-generated characters. Make 1 or 2 for each class. Make them available to download for free so people can just play. I just did this for Kobold Press when I made all the iconics for the classes that are out, and they're still continuing that idea. Make ones that are level 1, 3, and 5, the big points in the game. Giving a stat array, the stats aren't the hard part. It's putting it all together that's hard for a new player. Like, if you think assigning stats is the difficult part of your game, you don't know your own game. Right? Like, You could put the typical stat array. We watched this. Artel Soren did it for Cyberpunk Red. Each one of the different, I'm going to call them jobs. I can't remember what the fuck they're called off the top of my head, careers or whatever. They had ones where it's like, if you're a techie, this is the stat blocks you roll on. That's cool. But really, pre-made characters are the key. That is what you have to have.
If you really love optimizing your character, and when you choose your...
If you're optimizing your character and you don't understand what stats are, you can't optimize your character. I'm going to repeat myself. Optimizing means you understand the rules to optimize. Is that short and brief enough? Right?
Your background.
Disagree
You're
with
not just interested in its story implications, but you're really interested in how it's going to affect your ability scores. Well, knowing that there are players where that kind of optimization is important to them, the character creation chapter has a table that tells you here are the backgrounds to choose if you are looking for backgrounds that bump these certain ability scores.
That's fantastic.
And we provide that kind of assistance throughout the chapter. It goes even further than making a character at first level. It also
We're watching this full part here. There's only a little bit left for this one, but I think this is the most info they've given us.
We really want people to embrace this idea. We've talked about throughout 5th edition that if you're playing with a group of experienced players and you want your brand new party to hit the ground running as a group of adventurers, we encourage you to start at 3rd level, not 1st. 3rd level is when every class now gets their subclass and all of their main class abilities. And to support starting at 3rd level, we have now the rules for starting at that level in the player's handbook, as well as at any other level.
Okay.
So if you want to start a character at 18th level because your DM wants you to dive right into epic play, the rules for that are in the player's handbook too.
Sure.
And then you go from there into classes, character origins, feats, equipment, and spells.
Sure.
And also the species have been, there's a lot of new there as well. Like the Goliath, all I can say is the Dragonborn feel very Dragonborn now. The Goliath feels exceptionally Goliath now.
Yeah, they finally nailed down the fact that if every race and class, and I don't know if they went with species. I'm just saying race because that's I'm not apologizing. Just fucking, you know what I mean. If every race and every class can be everything, then there's no uniqueness to playing stuff. I think we had a glutton problem where we wanted you to be able to do everything with every class and every race and every game that we've played for the last 5 years. There was a weird thing in there for a while. I think Pathfinder was really guilty of this, and I think they kind of are still. They need to feel unique, and nothing feels unique when you get to just like really plumb things. That's a champion's term. Plumb it into like perfection. I do want my races and my classes to feel unique, so they feel like at the table amongst other players they serve a purpose.
Just the fact that there are
that's my belief
here who were in the 2014.
Yeah, the Goliath wasn't in there.
The Goliath wasn't there.
Goliath's a great race. It should be in there.
And the Orc wasn't there. So all 3 of those species now join other options that were present in 2014.
Okay.
And all of them have been enhanced in various ways.
Okay.
The community got to see an earlier draft of those enhancements in the Unearthed Arcana process, but since our game development continues beyond then, you're going to see even more. Great example of this, the Orc's Adrenaline Rush. The last time people saw it recharged only on a long rest, but in the final version, it actually recharges on a short rest or a long rest.
That is true.
Asimar, for people who have not yet seen the new version, rather than choosing a celestial revelation that is sort of fixed for the rest of your character's life, you now get to choose that whenever you use that trait. And so again, there are fun new options everywhere in the book, species included.
Not only is
that makes sense.
Available for pre-order right now on D&D Beyond. You can find that link in the video description.
Wait, we got, okay, what was this from the audience here? Let me pull this up. I apologize here. Hold on here. Wait, then XP means nothing. If you can start at whatever level, then why bother having a character that you stick with for a long time? It's like they care about rules, not the steps. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. I feel like maybe the verbiage in that was wrong. Does anyone else have anything on it? Like, I feel, let's rewind here a little bit. Let me replay this section. Where was that at? Was that in the dungeon map? How far back was that? Is it this speech here?
Adrenaline rush. The last time people saw it recharged only on a long rest, but in the final version actually recharges on a short
Is it before
rest
this?
or a long rest. The Aasimar, for people who have not yet seen the
Aasimar?
new version,
Isn't it Aasimar?
rather than choosing a celestial revelation that is sort of fixed for the rest of your character.
Where do they talk about that, Serving Hands?
You now get to choose that whenever you use that trait. And so again, there are fun new options.
Hold on.
Is
Like
character
here?
origins, feats, equipment, and spells.
And also the species have been...
Species is the word they're using now.
Well.
I knew they changed it.
All I can say is the Dragonborn feel very Dragonborn now. The Goliath feels exceptionally Goliath now.
I mean, you can start at whatever level in every game. I think they're just going to give you help.
In the
Like, as a group.
The Goliath wasn't there.
I think they mean as a group, like, if everybody wants to play at 5th level, they're going to help you play at 5th level. I think that's what they mean.
The Aasimar
Don't have quite
wasn't
enough
there,
details.
and the orc wasn't there. So all 3 of those species now join.
Right, you got to make the
other
orc
options
playable.
that were present in 2014, and all of them have been enhanced in various ways. The community got to see an earlier draft of those enhancements in the Unearthed Arcana
Is it right here?
But since our game development continues beyond then, you're going to see even more. Great example of this. The Orcs Adrenaline version actually
I can't find it.
Our species included.
Now, not only is the new Player's Handbook available for pre-order right now on D&D Beyond, you can find that link in the video description, but
I do
also the
like
new
him a
4
lot.
rulebooks,
He's a
both
good
digital
interviewer.
and
Very
physical,
clean.
are available for pre-order as a bundle that includes the new Dungeon Master's Guide, the new Monster Manual, and the new Player's Handbook. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's new in the Dungeon Master's Guide?
This I want to hear.
First and foremost,
this is not a complaint. This is just me talking as a professional GM and storyteller. This is just something I'm talking about. I think that the DMGs for almost every system that have come out over the years have been each group talking about, each GM guide or players. How do I want to phrase this? Every time a new GM book comes out, a Dungeon Master's Guide or GM's Guide, whatever the fucking system is, they have learned a little more on what it means to teach a GM how to run a game. But a lot of times, all the GM book has is the things that you don't want your players to know or is not relevant to them making a character. How traps function, how running an adventure and tactical combat for the GM matters. But the thing that is always missing is like your responsibilities as a GM versus your responsibilities with a player. And I think the indie scene or the small publisher scene has really kind of started nailing that down, because I think a GM's guide should teach you how to run the core version of whatever game you're about to play, right? If you're running Call of Cthulhu, the Keeper's Guide should teach you how to run horror, investigation, how to help players lean into the madness that comes with delving into the psyche of doing that, like how to make it fun mechanically, but also make a good story out of it, how to handle the different time periods of Cthulhu from 1950s up to modern times. It should be filled with the things that make you a better GM for storytelling and for your, at your table adventure design. Now, I don't think that the adventure design needs to be 100% written out for you. I'm actually never been a fan of written out adventures. Anyone who has known me, from me running games and playing games, I've never enjoyed running pre-written modules. To me, a pre-written module is more difficult to run. It reminds me of school and studying. Now, if you give me a guideline with some cool things in it and give me the key points, I can run that. Like, I'm a big fan of Razor Coast. I don't like pre-written stuff, but I can play in the Razor Coast with just the checklist and run a good game. That's a old Pathfinder 1st edition pirate game. If you don't know what it is, check it out. I am part of it for clarity. I got to help redesign some stuff and do things. But it's awesome what they did with it. And I think that GM's Guide should do more of that, like teach you how to make a checklist for your game and what you're using. I think a GM's Guide should teach you how to pace a game properly. I think it should give you optional rules that You can state at the beginning of a session, like, hey, we're going to be doing there's chance for underwater stuff. Here's rules for underwater. And clean sheets you can print and hand to your players. These are the things they need to do to make the GM's amount of fucking weight they need to lift and carry during a game, and teach you how to pass some of it off to the players, give you pre-made things, just like they're doing for the players. They are making stat arrays for players, right? They should be doing similar things for the GM. And I'm hoping they're about to say that, but I don't think so. I've not seen a good... I guess DMG 2 was the only good DMG I can think of off the top of my head out of D&D.
The Dungeon Master's Guide is bigger. Like all of the revised 5th edition books, we have added pages to the book. Things that were not
Nessie, you missed a lot.
The 2014 book that are in this book include...
Todd went back and watched it double speed, believe
5
not.
short sample adventures. A complete
I'm gonna need
campaign setting.
Oh, that's cool.
A lore glossary. And
that makes me happy. They're going to put a complete campaign setting in there. That's awesome. But is it like old complete campaign settings, or is it like the current box set campaign settings? You know what I'm saying? I don't want it to be.
Another totally new feature of this book is the Bastions chapter.
Oh,
that's all new content that we wanted to get.
What's a Bastions
book,
chapter?
That's why the book is.
What is Bastions?
This is why the book is bigger.
Why is it so chunky?
What the fuck is Bastions?
It's a chunky book. Yes, exactly. So one of the chapters of the book is called Creating Adventures, and it's all about helping the DM create adventures. There are tips and tricks that we can give you to help you do that.
Smart.
But all the advice aside, nothing compares to being able to see the advice being implemented.
I'm being
after giving you a bunch of advice on how you can create your own adventure content for your home groups, we present 5.
I'll do a recap at the end,
adventures in a format.
So you're welcome to join us right now. You're not missing anything huge.
Want to emulate and use for their own prep, accompanied by the.
What is Todd? This looks like Black Cat from fucking Marvel, right? Or DC. This looks like the boxer from DC. Okay.
Maps that are in one of the appendices of the book. These
baby, is it a baby?
Meant to show you how
it looks like a baby Ugalith or Ugalith
content in a way that
hey,
very easy for you to run.
I'm trying to be constructive on some of it. I'm not constructive about this nonsense, which we will touch base again after we finish watching this video.
At the table.
Perfect.
Maybe this will change my opinion.
Campaign setting. Yes. When you are ready to build a campaign, this chapter does, I think, a very good job, a much better job of showing you what a campaign looks like by giving you an example of one.
That is true.
No previous Dungeon Master's Guide has ever tried to do.
It has not.
And we thought.
But it has not done that. Otiug, thank you. But it has not, because we had campaign box sets back during 2nd edition. Like, I think I have it down here and there, like Planescapes, Dragonlance, Dark Sun, Ravenloft. Ravenloft actually was just in a clean adventure and then became one later on. We had, Al-Qadim. We had, which was like a Arabian Nights feel. Oriental Adventures, which I don't think they'll ever do again unless they rename it something else. And then Greyhawk, which is the classic. And there was one with Kingdoms and Bloodlines that the name is eluding me right now. But we've had these campaign settings that were box sets. And then in 3rd edition, they became books. And then in 5th edition, they didn't exist.
The best campaign setting.
4th edition, they kind of existed still. Oh, never.
Is the Greyhawk setting. What we do is we give you a poster map in the book that has the world of Greyhawk wilderness on one side and the city
they're doing
Greyhawk.
Smart
On the other, because we use the city of Greyhawk as a sample of what a campaign hub would be. A campaign hub is sort of the where the campaign starts. It's kind of its center, its core.
Maybe I'll only get the DMG.
Beyond that, we go into the regions around the city.
Birthright. Thank you.
Some of the
Birthright. That's what it was.
By areas of interest.
I got a lot of flame for that one, but I actually think they're. Birthright was like Highlander for fantasy games.
Dungeons and
it was fucking kind of cool, to be honest.
Threats in the forest, that kind of thing. We flesh that out, and then we go even broader and show you the rest of the land known as Eastern Auric, or the Flaneus, this vast region around the city of Greyhawk. We flesh out all of those domains to the extent that we believe DMs need to get sort of a lay of the land, but at the same time saying, hey, DM, now that we've given you this, make it your own.
Yeah.
You know,
it's also really important for them to touch back on one of the original campaign settings. One, to keep the history going. I believe that if you don't follow history, you're doomed to repeat it. Greyhawk was a great mega setting piece. And I know, so Drew, who's on my show, still runs Greyhawk to this day. When him and I met, when I was running 2nd edition for them, we played in Greyhawk. There was just a plethora of great things you could do with it. It was a pretty open campaign. And a lot of the big bads like Orcus and stuff that you know today come from Greyhawk. So also great pause. Sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to pause you on squinty eyes. But a sneeze face. I do think that it is important to kind of revisit this, and I am happy they're giving him the kind of idea of a mega city and the other idea on the back being how to the whole campaign.
If you want
That's smart.
You know, add a town here if you want to. That kind of thing. It's very
Agreed.
much built on the idea of
what's going to do with Cadra.
Yeah.
We're throwing some toys in, and we're saying, go play.
Yeah.
Smart.
It is.
Smart.
Yes.
Smart.
That's a great way to say it. Greyhawk is yours. The next element I want to talk about is the lore glossary.
Okay.
The lore glossary is an alphabetical listing of some of the most famous places, figures, and materials that are so iconic to D&D that we want them to be shared knowledge among all D&D players of all ages. What is mithril in D&D? What is adamantine?
This feels like
perfect.
The lore glossary
feels like they had some of the old school people design this part of the DMG
that many of us old timers have embedded
as
in our
I just said.
But
as I
a
just
lot of
said,
D&D players don't.
Yeah.
And so this is just an easy, quick reference guide for people who are looking for information about this mysterious thing they just stumbled upon.
Yeah.
So the fourth wholly new thing in the dungeon.
So before we get into their fourth piece, because he's going to talk about Bastions next is my guess. I'm guessing that's like castles and stuff like that. Because they, honestly, there has been a call. MCDM answered with their Kingdoms book and their second one. And I feel like because of that, they need to do a call to action about having castles and kingdoms and stuff like that. Because MCDM made a 5e version in their style of making things. And if they don't answer that, that is a third-party company getting the leg up on them still to today. Let's see if I'm right.
Dungeon Master's Guide that I haven't talked about yet is the Bastions chapter.
I am very, very excited for this.
So Bastions is, while the word is new to our lexicon in D&D, it's built on a very old concept because even going all the way back to the earliest editions of D&D, there were rules for building strongholds.
Yeah.
Often you didn't get access to them, though, until you were much higher level. We have designed the Bastion system in the Dungeon Master's Guide so that characters can start building their bastions at level 5.
5? Okay, 5. My guess was 3.
These continue to grow over the life of your adventure.
3rd is your archetype.
But the magnificent
5
thing
is
about them
this.
is you basically run them as kind of like a separate little activity.
Someone to spend your money.
Stop you from being an adventurer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your adventurer can go around saving the multiverse, you know, run off to the Nine Hells or run off to the Feywild, do what you have to do. Once your bastion is up and running, it is kind of a self-sustaining unit. And it's the players who run the bastions. So every player is in charge of their own bastion and their own bastion's maintenance. And there are these this mechanism called the bastion turn, which activates.
I have a question about this
basically says
to the audience.
Your bastion now take a bastion turn. You don't even have to be home for your bastion, for something to be happening in your bastion. But also, a bastion is like a mini game, a mini campaign that the player is controlling. The players are essentially DMing their own microcosms within.
Pausing because, again, got to talk over 50% of this. But we have done this in a lot of our campaigns. And as a GM, I got to talk about having your own bastion. So for those of you who went through as a correlation to 5e, and you've watched my Dragonlance stuff, Beetle and Grimm gave me a box set for Dragonlance to run the campaign, and I love the guys from them. I do. Like, I want to be able to support third-party publishers that were making things for 5e, and the Beetle and Grimm's team are just such kind people, and they fucking love gaming. And in that, before I'd even read through it, I had decided that I wanted to use MCDM's Kingdoms and Castles and stuff like that, because it fit Dragonlance to me, right? As an old school gamer, I love that. But what I have found, if you have a table of 5, and in that campaign, I had a table of 5 on one show and 3 on the other show, because it was dual Monday, Tuesday show, same story arc, but some people work for the main city, other people were like the heroes that were summoned, right? A lot of players I don't know if they don't enjoy it or they don't like the due diligence of keeping up their kingdom. Even though they do give you bonuses every week, you can kind of switch some stuff in the background and you can get like trained in armor. There was some cool stuff. They don't keep up with it and they forget about all of this stuff. Even with a castle sheet, even when we were doing 5e for Magic and Monsters and they had a Bastion that they were a part of in that. I think Bastille was the name of the place we were at. I can't remember. Todd might remember. But they didn't do anything with it. Because when you're out adventuring, like while it's in the background, maybe it's raising some money. It's a hub for NPCs. We're doing it right now in Dragonbane, for ETHUANTIA. And we have our outpost. That's very small. It's one fucking building, one map with basements. And even then, it's a place for Streamloot cards to get played to kind of like bring new NPCs in to make it a hub like they've talked about earlier. And the players upgrade that place to give them bonuses. But I feel like the players forget about the extra stuff that they have. And part of the problem with things like Bastions is unless your GM is taught to give big gaps of downtime where they can use this space that they're collaboratively building, and I do hope everyone is building one collaborative space in a campaign. I hope everyone doesn't have their own Bastion. And also, is it going to be a requirement at 5th level that a Bastion is obtained? Because if your players aren't into it, it should be an optional rule. So we'll see if they say that. I just find, and correct me if I'm wrong if you're watching this live right now, or comment down below, do you as a player like having a HQ? Do you like the extra rules, or is that just more management for you and you don't give a shit? Like you like the idea, but in execution you just never play with it. I'm curious because I feel like a lot of players love the concept but don't like the process of upkeep and doing it. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong because I fucking love them as a GM. I think they're great. They make hubs.
In the larger campaign, giving identities to their hirelings in the Bastions, triggering events that happen in the Bastions and seeing the results and consequences of those events. That's a very DM
shit that I've done
of things.
All shit that I've done.
So I love the idea that the Bastions are in the Dungeon Master's Guide because, in effect, it's allowing the players to get a taste of what DMing is like.
Yeah.
It's very sneaky.
Yes. And it's a wonderful out-of-game
agree.
activity.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great mini game.
Yeah.
It's a great mini game, and it can be done just through your Discord that you're using, wherever you're keeping all your information together. Works really well for that.
Yeah, when you're, you know, if the session has to be canceled or whatever, and you can't play tonight or whatever, that's okay. Your DM can just say, "Everybody, take a Bastion turn."
Yeah, send the message,
and then off the players go, and
smart.
they just let the DMs know what their Bastions did.
If they do it
that particular turn, it's a fabulous.
It's really hard to get them to do it.
Game within a game.
And then we have just a massive treasury. I mean, treasure section.
Yes. So as in 2014,
I did.
The biggest chapter in the Dungeon Master's Guide is the treasure chapter. Loot.
I need coffee for this. Here's some music. I'm going to grab coffee before we get into this piece because I know I'm going to have opinions. You know what? Hold on. We're going to run a commercial. All right, everybody get themselves some more coffee, something to drink. We all good? We all good? All right, let's go back. I'm gonna pause this. Oh, we put this on. Let's talk about what some people have just put in here. Also, this is no critique, just an observation, but I've heard the word Bastion so many times, it's lost all meaning. Really? Have I said the word Bastion? Or are you talking about in their video? You're probably talking about in their video, right? Yeah. I agree. I feel like there is a problem with the idea of a Bastion being in the game, and that people feel that Bastion in the video, yeah, Bastion is important, but like I don't fucking feel like they're telling me anything. There's no rules. This is all just like is hearsay the word I want to use? I feel like it's all hearsay. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel real to me. Like it's, I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel right. It feels like we're watching a video of possibilities, but no factualities, because they're not showing us any data. They're not showing us any numbers. They're not showing us any mechanics. They're just, I feel like I'm listening to Terrence Howard talk about how he fucking solved math. Like, that's what this feels like right now. This is Terrence Howard solving math without showing us any of the fucking math. Anyway, let's go back before I get ragey here.
Yes, every magic item is getting, you've got a little hairy eyeball. We took a look at it. We made some refinements to it.
Sure.
We stuffed.
I believe magic items should be in the player's book.
Items into the chapter to address certain holes or gaps
that
we'd identified. For instance, there in the 2014 DMG, there weren't a lot of common magic items, so we imported a few. We also saw opportunity to squeeze in some, shall we say, nostalgic delights in celebration of 50th anniversary, including things like magic items used by the kids in the D&D cartoon.
Perfect. Yeah.
We've also taken another crack at the crafting magic items rules.
Sure.
How do you, a player,
sure,
how do you, a character, craft an item of your own with your DM's consent, of course.
Come on, guys.
And is the
Killing
crafting
me
system
here.
also in the player's handbook, or is it only the DMG?
That is a great question. So the answer is
a great
yes.
question?
There is.
I'm looking over here because
magic
I'm fixing
items
something in the background.
in the player's handbook, but it's limited to some very simple potions and scrolls.
Okay.
Okay.
So you can create a low-level spell scroll, or you can create a potion of healing or some other low-level potion. The rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide are broader and encompass more variety.
Perfect.
We have a whole chapter on the cosmology of D&D, which talks about the worlds of D&D and the planes of existence that are out there waiting to be explored. We tried to make them more beautiful this time around. We tried to give you even more useful information as a dungeon master about some of these places.
Oh my God, Nessie. It's a bit like a timeshare pitch. You want to own a Bastion? Bastion, Bastion, certification, Bastion, certain days of the week, only certain seasons, Bastion, sometimes Bastion, timeshare. Yes, Nessie, you're right. You're right. You're so fucking right.
And while
What's up, Star Drew?
making it clear that, hey, you're the DM, what you show of the multiverse is entirely up to you.
Perfect.
I like that beholder.
What about the tracking sheets?
Yeah, tell me about the tracking sheets.
So one of the
What?
fun new features
They
that's
listen?
sprinkled through the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, like
They fucking listened?
candy,
Come on, man.
are these
like what?
delightfully
Just grab
charming tracking sheets.
I have a mustache, which means
not only
I gotta have something to wipe my
put in the
face off
books
while I'm
as
drinking
kind of
coffee.
like a show and tell to show you what we're.
And it's iced coffee.
But also
to calm the rage.
Downloadable off of our website so that you can just print them out and put them in whatever you use for your campaign
there's no
journal.
show.
And these sheets are designed to help you keep track of important information in your game or in your campaign.
This is smart.
There is a,
I talk about,
for instance,
I literally talked about this before this stuff started, how there needs to be tracking sheets. I think that Blades in the Dark does a great job with this. When I was working on Razor Coast, we made sure we had key item tracking sheets and story beat tracking sheets. I think having that is important. Even honestly, I think bookmarks, like wide bookmarks that you can slap in the book that you check things off on, is fucking genius. I also, and I know this is going to be heresy to some people, I believe you should treat your tabletop RPG book like you would a textbook in school. Highlight the fuck out of it. I know the guy who's doing Vagabond talks about that. Indestructiboy, I think that's the right name of his channel. He highlights all this stuff. I've been doing it in my PDFs lately. PDFs, remember, you can turn them on and off if you highlight them. But I think you should highlight the shit out of your books. I really do. Because I think it puts a memory in there for you to go, oh yeah, I remember why I highlighted this. Tracking sheets are kind of like that for running games.
If you want to create a new NPC, there is a sheet that we give you that you can use and write on to capture important information.
Are they going to talk about this being in D&D Beyond at all?
In a very clean, elegant way. There is a sheet that you can use to build settlements like towns and villages. There's a sheet players can use to keep...
This is a direct answer. Everybody. If you watched my stuff for Cobalt Press, this is a direct answer to the last couple of Kickstarters from Cobalt Press, because they want you to not be using Cobalt Press's stuff or third-party publishers, right? So this is a direct answer to that. Let's pull up Cobalt Press, and let's talk about the things that are on here really quick. Really quick. Campaign builder, Dungeons and Ruins, right? No, I don't want to fucking subscribe. I don't fix that, please, everybody. So they have that one is their new one, which is their Dungeons and Ruins. But if we go to their store, let's look at, I just want their whole store. I want just store search. So let's look up city, because they did a cities and towns. And this is a direct answer to other companies publishing the shit that they didn't put out in time. Are you going to search this thing? Let's just go to pre-order here. So here it is. Dungeons and Ruins, right? Down here, Dungeons and Ruins, all the stuff for all the different ones. Do they have the other ones here? This is what we're looking for. Cities and towns, castles and crowns, Dungeons and Ruins. They're trying to answer this. That's what they're trying to do right now.
Track of important information about their bastions. There is a sheet you can use as a DM to keep track of the magic items that you
or PDF do it, Todd.
To the party in the course of the campaign, to keep track of
what Bleak said. 100%
character information, so that
I don't disagree.
You have some information about the characters in the party readily accessible to you as a DM behind your screen. And then I think most importantly, or the sheet that I find most useful, is the session planner sheet, where you know you've got a game session next week. You can write down the key beats of what you think is going to happen, key characters.
It's called a notebook, folks.
These sheets are beautiful. I think they're compelling.
Beetle and Grim will be making this.
DMs will want to use them or want to create
versions
of them. And they have charming little illustrations of monsters on them, which I think are absolutely delightful. Now, I haven't talked about the first 3 chapters of the book, Todd.
That's my fault. I am a terrible interviewer. Well, tell me about the first few chapters of the book.
Chapters 1, 2, and 3 are
do you remember
important.
Them? Okay.
And we put them at the front of the book because they're super important.
That's a good structure.
Chapter 1 is called The Basics.
Perfect.
It is a short chapter, primarily aimed
half chapter.
DM curious folks who haven't DM'd or haven't DM'd much and are curious to really kind of dive in and sink their teeth into the DM role. And then when we quickly segue out of there.
Second time we've seen this art. They're running out of art, boys and girls.
And it is literally that. It includes a sample
running out of art
play. There are similar things in the player's handbook, but this one is more aimed at the dungeon master. When we get to chapter 3, chapter 3 is a weirdo. There's a bunch of topics.
Did I just call their chapter weird? Did I misunderstand that? He did say weirdo, right? I'm not crazy. He said weirdo.
That have to be covered, that are
lines and veils,
traps.
Oh,
how poisons work.
Oh, that's not weird. That's not weird. That is the GM's toolkit. It should be called the GM's toolkit. Like, it's not weird. Traps, poisons, time, overland travel, hexes, distances, air combat, underwater combat, being underground, how to spelunk. That's not weird. That is the GM's job.
Information about
this is me bitching about verbiage.
NPC,
because I think terminology matters.
A bunch of these miscellaneous topics that the 2014 DMG covered, but they were sort of scattered everywhere throughout
These
the
are
book.
the building blocks.
Yes.
Great, you put them together.
Building blocks. We call chapters 3.
That's smart.
We call chapter 3 the DM toolbox because it's
Jesus
just
Christ
this encyclopedia of miscellaneous parts.
Toys
that can come up in play.
Oh, fuck. I am bugged.
Alphabetically by topic.
I'm bugged. Todd, it's still here.
Alphabetically topical listing.
I'm still bugged by
things.
fucking Wizards of the
more
Coast.
Information about curses and how curses work. There's a section on curses.
Fuck my life.
More information about hazards like green slime, yellow mold, brown mold, fireball fungus.
No.
Fireball
fungus. That's all in the hazards section.
Everything feels like a new, fresh experience.
Serving Heads and Nessie are now combining. Look, guys, we made sheets for you to track things with. And it's got fun little creatures drawn on it. Doesn't show it and proceeds with the timeshare pitch.
And like you said, a better experience for existing players who have been playing D&D. But this also
one of my surgeries has got a chip in my shoulder.
It is taking the wonderful bits of the 2014 Dungeon Master's Guide, and resorting them and blending them in a way.
I like these backsplash panels though. That purple background, I would use that for something.
Turn it into a new book.
Even though the edges look like sci-fi-ish.
The new player's handbook, and you and I have talked a lot about the new Dungeon Master's Guide, maybe more than we should have.
Oh, monster time, boys and girls.
Monster manual. Tell me a little
It's
bit
not till
about
2025.
How has this been revamped?
So this is the largest monster manual the game has ever had. Over 500 monsters in it. And that includes
not
fucking
only dope art.
Many of the classic foes that people expect to face
the
in
flump.
D&D,
I got one of those on my shelf from Gamma, I think.
Serve as allies. We have rebuilt every monster that was in the 2014 monster manual, striving to make it as fun as it can be, make sure it's as scary as it should be for its challenge rating. But then we've also added a...
Look, you're not wrong, Ness. You're not wrong, Nessie. There are tons of companies who make those sheets as well. I do think it is smart for them. Like, all shade aside, I think it is smart for Wizards of the Coast to be putting this in the 2024 book, because they really haven't changed a lot of the rules from what we've seen none of yet during the show or this timeshare video that we're watching. Because of that, they have to have some stuff in it, because right now all they did was kind of clean things up. Honestly, this is the same shade I was throwing at PF2 for the remastered stuff. Like, it just... At the end of the day, I consider myself a veteran player and GM. So maybe new people coming into the hobby won't feel the same way. But as someone who has got a little bit of time, like if you were in this 10-year cycle of 5e and Pathfinder 2 before the remastered, I think all of us have the same feeling of, why are you baiting and switching me? You should have gave me a new edition. It should have been a new edition. if it's not a new edition and you're doing a reprint, shouldn't this just be the errata edition? Like most miniature games, for an example, or anything, will give you version 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 until a new edition comes out. And all you're doing is fixing the things or updating the things that you've learned, like putting these sheets into the book. But this isn't a new edition. This is literally just 5e slightly changed. I always feel like I'm getting scammed like a timeshare. You're right. It just feels like a timeshare pitch.
A bunch of new monsters. There are over 75 new monsters in this book, and many of the new monsters fill in families of monsters that already existed. Great.
Mead, but also on a real note, was it Rook and Raven? They made the really cool spiral disc books. Kelly and I both have one. They're really fun. You can buy little pages that are made for it. It's a cool experience. I really think it's more for a player to enjoy their thing. GMs can use it. It's just, it gets awkward. I think every GM has their own way of taking notes. But yeah, Mead. I have the Stranger Things Mead notebook over here. I don't remember where I got it, but it's a Stranger Things Mead notebook.
Great example. The game already, of course.
Snarky's okay, man. We're here for Snark.
And multiple types. Well, there are even more types now.
You knew that would please you, Todd.
Yes. And the additional vampire types are there.
Oh, okay.
Because when we have looked at each of
I remember
the
Todd's a big
major
Ravenloft fan, that's why they're
families
saying
of monsters, we've wanted to make sure that there were opportunities for groups to encounter that family of monster.
Okay.
Without getting murdered right away?
Maybe sooner than they could before.
Yeah.
But also
He's
in
not
some
wrong.
cases, we also wanted there to be higher CR versions of some of these families of monsters.
Oh.
It's funny that they're mentioning the higher CR families for monsters. So I don't know. This is related to this. If any of you guys have been watching all the content created by people for Kraken Week, and the big conversation right now is that the high CR Kraken in D&D doesn't live up to the CR that really, I think it's 17th or 18th level party is able to fight a Kraken with a little bit of prep. And I feel like their CRs, and this has been a problem since 5e. This is a GM. I do not use encounter levels or CRs as they are in the book, because I have found smart players or experienced players or witty players can bypass a lot of the challenge ratings by playing well. And the CRs are not balanced mechanically, and it is too hard to craft an encounter around CRs because there's other things you have to take into mind. Like you have to talk about traps. You have to talk about environment. There's a lot of things you have to change. And part of your job as a GM is on the fly recrafting the scenario if shit's going south. Unless you're playing like you're going in saying, look, nothing will be altered in this. This dungeon is deadly. Prepare, be ready, no punches will be pulled. That's one thing. But if it's in a random encounter or they're doing travel and they encounter something and shit goes sideways because you thought they were going to run and they fight it instead, that CR economy doesn't work. And the math behind it is really difficult. It's sloppy at best. So when they're talking about having a higher CRs for like vampires and other things, there's a gap where like you want to use a vampire, but it's a 15, you don't stack classes onto them like you used to. So I think this is their answer to that. And I do think that they should do that. Plus, the Monster Manual needs that shit.
Low CR vampire, which is a vampire that is still partly mortal in the process of becoming a full vampire. But then on the other end, we have
You're not wrong,
vampire
Bleak.
that is
You're not wrong.
more powerful than the sort of apex vampire that we had in the 2014 Monster Manual.
They should include them, though. Those sheets should be included. You should be able to pick up the book and have everything you need. That doesn't mean you can't go outside and find better versions.
We wanted to make sure that those
But they don't give a
NPC
fuck about other
groups
people.
remained relevant for more of a campaign, particularly because we know that DMs used the heck out of those NPC stat blocks that were in 2014. And so in addition to expanding out some of those NPC groups, whether it's bandits or priests
I
or
keep forgetting your
mages,
name's Bleak, not on
we've
here.
also
But
created
yes,
new
that is
groups.
correct.
So
I
there
agree with you
now
wholeheartedly.
there's now a group of performers. There's now a group of pirates.
It's very true.
And so on. Because we want to make this book the indispensable tool for DMs as they're preparing adventures and campaigns to go to this book for inspiration, to be inspired by the art, by the stat blocks, by the story text.
I agree with all of this.
As they're creating their adventures.
100% of it.
But then also to have a whole bunch of stat blocks that are super easy to use at the table when initiative is rolled, and the DM can unleash a whole bunch of surprises.
Because there's been a little bit of extra added to them. And the art is also stunning. I've seen some of the art as it's been coming in, and that is stunning as well.
Yes,
almost all
it
the art in the book
is.
is new.
That's perfect.
Yes,
That's
it's
a lot of
beautiful.
art.
It's glorious.
Yes.
Yes. One of the key things that we paid attention to was making sure.
Every time they say art, I'm just going to say timeshare in my head. I think you should all join in on that. I feel like every time they say art, they're trying to sell you on something that they've shown you nothing. I could take this art and run any game, any fantasy game, and I'll even say high fantasy game, and use their art. They're showing us nothing. This is a 2-week-old video, and maybe this is their hype video for everything that is coming out. But they are telling us nothing about the actual gameplay mechanics, changes from 14 to 24, and they're just filling the air with verbiage, images, and terminology, but no mechanics. Which means I could take what they're saying and slap it on top of any other system and accomplish the same thing. I don't like this. I'm hoping in July here, this is 2 weeks old, so that means it happened in June. I'm hoping in July we get some mechanics that come out, and I will come back to it if we do. But right now, this sales pitch sucks. It fucking sucks.
Sure that if it's a pre-existing monster, its challenge rating stayed the same. And that was a necessity for us because we want to make sure that the monsters are all compatible with our previous 5th edition adventures. But we knew, based on extensive playtesting and 10 years of experience, that not all the monsters were hitting their CR exactly right. So that gave us room to make some fun adjustments.
Yeah, and so there will be many monsters, particularly at the higher CRs, that are going to be far more terrifying than they were before. We also
that excites me. I like hearing more about monsters. I'd love to see some stat blocks as an example of what you're doing.
Of certain creature types that didn't have an Apex version before.
I like the word Apex. Types, I always have for like Apex predators.
Dragons and giants.
I like that.
Prime examples.
In my setting of ETHUANTIA, anything that's Apex is usually considered a Nodaric creature, something from Nodaria. For those who know the history of ETHUANTIA, they know what Nodaria really is. Fuck you, wizards. Actually, just whoever robbed my car and stole all my books and my shit. But Nodaria was that set piece. And then Weapons of Power, which is my hat, tilt to He-Man. Any Weapons of Power are also that kind of like Apex item or weapon in a game.
Along with our Fiends, have long had really high CR, iconic examples of those creature types. We also, of course, have the Tarrasque as the Apex monstrosity.
Yeah. It is a Tarrasque. This isn't a Tarrasque.
That we're missing a monster at that high level of difficulty.
This is fucking hilarious
and so
for those who watch my
those
show.
Gaps in the new monster manual. So that now means we have, in the construct category, we have a Colossus that can just trample cities. Do
you think they're going to put out rules for large monsters, kaiju scale monsters, so that the combat feels right? During Cracking Week, Pointy Hat put out his new adventure that is free, by the way. I would definitely say check it out. It's fucking really good. But he has rules for large scale monster combat. And for those who have watched and been a part of EFP, or just my creations from Norse Foundry to Cobalt Press and everything else, I handle big scale kaiju combat differently, because when I am running large scale combat, and let's say you're fighting a Tarrasque, okay? I see them as this colossal creature that's attacking so much stuff at once that they need different mechanics. Like you should be fighting the foot of the creature or stopping the catastrophes that they're happening. And you give sections and points of this big overarching combat field of things that you should be doing as a player. But they deserve their own mechanics, because if it's just a big hit point battery, like there's just up here, a boss hit point bar, and you're following that boss hit point bar and like whittling it down, it shouldn't just be shooting the big body of the creature. I think objectives on the battlefield do more. So in that Taras scenario, routing it by putting up a magical barrier down the wall so that it can't get through that section and corralling it away from the city, or running livestock out to give it something to eat, or using maybe airships to guide it and attack at those airships to make it not go towards the city but back towards the water. Those kind of moments need their own rules. I do like the Pathfinder 2e victory point conditions for those big cinematic moments, but there's things that you should do as a industry and game designer to create epic moments, and I don't think regular D&D combat as we know it right now works for that. So I hope with these monsters they're talking about, these titans, these apex creatures, that there's some new rules blocks. I don't think it'll be there. I don't think there'll be a chapter in the toolbox of the GM section for running it. I think third-party source should fill this thing. I think what Pointy Hat did is a great start. But right now, they're, again, just giving us words with no facts behind them. And I can sell that. It's not good enough.
Ooze category, we have the Blob of Annihilation.
Yes.
That can dissolve
Great.
entire towns worth of people into it. I mean, a total horror. We now
mechanics,
have an Arch Hag,
which we're not going to hear.
In the Fey category, that can strike true terror into high-level groups, cackling while doing
This is
it.
needed. I do agree.
Even the elemental
I do
category,
agree. This is
it's
needed.
interesting. Elementals, that's one of the most classic monster categories, but it too was actually missing a monster at the sort of Taras tier, and it now has one in the form of the elemental juggernaut.
Well, we're about at time, but we're going to have a series of these videos coming out every single day during the weekdays. We are going to be going over different features in the player's handbook. We're going to be going over every subclass, every class, rules glossary, spells. I hope everyone doesn't get sick of me, because we're going to talk about this every single day.
Until launch?
All 3 of these books are up for pre-order, and that you can also pre-order the player's handbook separately. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for letting me interview you for so many years and put up with my fanboyness. But I'm so excited for these books. You've done an amazing job.
I do believe everything he says. I think he actually is a fan. He's a sincere person. Or a really good actor.
Working on the monster manual right now and the DMG. So
yeah, we're still in the thick of it, but again,
So hold on. Let's talk industry for a second. The DMG, let's go back to this. The DMG is coming out in November, right? So we're in July. So July, August, September, October, November. That month can't count because that's like shipping and everything else. So 4 months. So that means the DMG, if they're going to hit their date, and this is my belief, you want 3-month turnaround. 90 days is better because you got to prove. So you need 3 months to print that thing, right? That's a rough 3 months. 3 months. They should be showing us some rules during this. I feel like they should have been grabbing some hype moments for new mechanics and presenting them during this, because right now all this is a guy standing behind you going, "Yo, epic monsters, titans, apex." There's no meat to this. Now, I am interested in seeing the rest of the videos. I do agree with them doing one every day. That's smart marketing. And I am going to look at some of those. I'm probably going to try to find the ones I think that are best to review live. You know what? Fuck it. I will be back tomorrow during the day. Maybe at night. One of those times. I'll put something up and we'll do a little bit of a look over one of those videos to see if they give us more. But right now, This is an hour long with no meat.
We were just playing D&D this past weekend, and in our hearts, we're D&D fans first. And to me, it is a wonderful sign that what I kept thinking was, I, as a fan, cannot wait to have these books in my hands.
I believe that. I do believe these two really love their industry. I don't.
The New Player's Handbook is available for pre-order.
Okay. Notice that they 2 weeks ago, and this is 2 weeks ago. This is nitty gritty. This video is from 2 weeks ago. This post is also from 2 weeks ago. Numbers are up here, right? You can pre-order. They talk about the rest of the pre-order access here. Okay?
Right
See if they put it on
Beyond,
screen.
You can find that link in the video description. And you can also find the new core rulebooks bundle for pre-order, both physical
no prices.
and digital.
No
Thank
prices.
you so much for watching. We have a ton of video content coming out about the New Player's Handbook.
Also, you know how, Todd, you were saying, oh, the brand isn't down here the whole time. You choose to put the brand there, by the way. When you are a partner on YouTube, that brand logo that they have there goes up as like a watermark. Then they had a watermark on it. I also want to point out this, and this is a little ragey moment for me. This is the D&D 50. This is the 50 years of Dungeons & Dragons. Gen Con is the largest convention for tabletop gaming in the world. And these guys are not going to be at the 50, but Gen Con are advertising as the D&D 50. But you're at D&D 50. It's awesome. Hey, are they going to be there? Well, no. We're just celebrating it together without them.
Handbook and all the new core rule books, the new monster manual, the new Dungeon Master's Guide. So be sure to check out all of that content. And thank you for watching.
All right, everyone. I don't like what they did. We have some other views here. I was going to sign off. But because I talked such deep trash about their timeshare pitch. No, they don't go to Gen Con. They haven't for years. Let me look up the last time they were at Gen Con. Last time Wizards of the Coast was at Gen Con. Let's see what we can find. Let's see. They'll sponsorship, but they haven't had a booth. There's never been an official presence. Let's see when the last 2015. Right. Yeah. Yeah, Jesus isn't. You're right. You are right. Jesus isn't around, but they still celebrate his birthday. But this is a gaming convention, and they are still around, and so that doesn't work for me. I think that it's kind of weird that they don't go, and I don't know. I won't speak on why they're not there, other than the cost of maybe displaying there. But they still sponsor some stuff at Gen Con without having an actual booth presence, and that's kind of weird. I would want them to be there for the Big 50, and they're not. They're fucking not. That sucks. As a fan of the brand, because that's what they want us to be, I want them there. I want to buy the book at Gen Con. I still think they're not doing it, not because the print's not ready, because they know if it isn't accepted well, it's going to go bad. They've watched what happens when they do big press release. Last April, when they had all the creators there, they got blown up over that. Every time they've been and they've done a panel, but they display D&D Insider, 4th edition, Gleemax. Every time they've had a large display of what they're doing, they've gotten blown up for it because it's presented poorly because it felt like they weren't listening to anyone. Now, with that said, Wizard, Druid, Ranger. This Ranger is the one that everyone has been saying there's a problem with. So we're going to look at this right now. This is 31 minutes. We're going to clip through this bitch.
About a very big topic. We're talking.
I said I wasn't going to do this, but fuck it. We're in.
We
We're in.
effectively have a brand new class with this Ranger.
Great.
Yeah, it is super exciting. The Ranger.
If we don't get any fucking stats, and we don't get any actually how the Ranger works in this 31-minute video, I am going to be very upset. Prove me wrong.
Any other class in the New Player's Handbook is
Should have
in
brought bourbon.
class. People got to see the evolution of the class through the Unearthed Arcana process, and now in the new Player's Handbook, you will get the
For those who don't know
Ranger.
what Unearthed Arcana is their website, kind of like monthly post or weekly post where they show you new things you can try out. It started back in the day for new rules. It was really cool. Ask the Sage was kind of part of that as well for Wizards of the Coast. And they would give you new things to start. For example, we saw the Artificer or Artificer, whoever you are and however you want to say it. That's where we saw the first sample of that as well. So it's kind of where they test run their products and things that are coming out. That is what that is for those who don't know.
And every facet of this class has been revisited, fine-tuned. The class has always been widely played, but...
Are you fucking kidding me? You blurred it all? You blurred all of it. This is the same video. This is the same asset they used in the Timeshare video when they showed the Ranger. Same thing, blurred out.
In our satisfaction surveys over the years, the class has also been one of our
when did this come out?
Classes. And so the Ranger, along with the Monk,
I'm looking for a date.
Received major overhauls.
They're talking. I'm fucking scrolling. I don't give a shit.
Handbook, with, again, the Ranger receiving such a major overhaul that, again,
these comments.
It's a brand new class.
Yeah.
Shall we dive in?
Yes, please.
Right away at first level, if you've played a Ranger over the past 10 years in 5th edition, you're going to see just how new it is, because everything at first level is new. So first off, you get your spellcasting now right away at first level.
Okay, so they automatically get spellcasting.
Did in the Paladin as well in the new Player's Handbook. Spellcasting is a fundamental part of each of these classes' identities, and we no longer wanted these two classes.
Yeah, it's top 9 days ago. Yeah. So the other one was 2 weeks, so 14 days ago. This is 9 days ago.
Partly because we also want people who are new to playing these classes to immediately get accustomed to integrating in the spell use that is a part of the hype.
We all agree that the art isn't the problem here right now. Like, the art is gorgeous. Again, none of it seems AI generated. They've finally leaped that hurdle. Mistakes are made by companies. I agree with you. They are. This is the top of the food chain. Less mistakes should be made. Forgiveness. I'm over that. There's no more forgiveness with me with this company. I want that to be clear as well. And I mean the company, not the people who work there. So far, we're only 2 minutes in, but there's been no actual visual mechanics
of the Ranger.
That hurts.
Right.
These are the quintessential hybrid characters in D&D, going all the way
I said
back
that earlier.
to first edition.
Said that earlier. So that's the problem with making a
weapon
Ranger.
use with magic use. So spellcasting, it's at first level now for Rangers. Piggybacking on that, we also now have a brand new version of the favored enemy
Agreed,
feature.
Nessie.
And this feature now gives you the
It's just fluff.
Hunter's Mark spell prepared all the time, and also gives you free castings of it a certain number of times per day.
Sure.
This is great because it means those castings will no longer compete with your spell casting as a Ranger if you want to do other things with your spells. Hunter's Mark is the way that you mark an enemy as your favored foe.
It's in the
make
name.
it so that you deal more damage to them.
How
And
much?
If you're in
How much
a
damage?
pursuit situation in your adventure, it means you're going to have an easier time of tracking them. Now we'll come back to this spell as we journey upward through the
getting
levels in this
frustrated right
class,
now.
because
I'm trying
you're
not to
going
be.
to
I
see
am.
that the new Ranger then has that spell improved at later levels. But we're going
They're
to stay
so
here at first
afraid.
level for now,
Okay.
because also at first level, Rangers get weapon mastery.
Yeah.
Great.
Having
What is it?
Spell casting with sort of favored enemy as the piggybacking on spell casting. That's the magic side of the Ranger. Well, we also now have weapon mastery. And this means that Rangers, like all of our classes that are getting weapon mastery, will get to enjoy the brand new tactical options that the weapon mastery system provides. And because Rangers have
This
a
is
very
bullshit.
broad weapon selection, that means I think we're going to see many different flavored Rangers just in terms of their
Sure we
weapon
are.
use. At level
Sure
2,
we are.
Rangers get fighting style.
I was looking at my phone. I was
which
texting
was
Drew.
a feature that the 2014 Ranger had, and then also a new feature called Deft Explorer. And there was a
what does it do?
Of Deft Explorer as an option in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. The version that's now here in the new player's handbook
is a windmill.
Gives you expertise in a skill of your choice that you have proficiency in.
Okay, a lot of their talk has been about new players being able to understand what's going on, and you're trying to timeshare them into this, right? Why are you not at least briefly touching on the differences? Yeah, look, Bleak, you're not wrong. Like, there can be a 13-minute video on weapon mastery, but you should at least be mentioning, because these are all shot back to back to back. They're wearing the same fucking clothes, right? They just shot this shit in a day. They should at least be saying, weapon mastery, we have a full video on it. It goes in the mechanics. Like, build some trust. But you could at least say damages went up. You'll see what used to be like 2 dice is now 3 dice of damage to make you feel more powerful as a marshal. Look how much time that took me to say. They are deliberately giving no mechanics out right now. And this book's already a print at this point. They ain't changing the book that's getting printed. 13-minute video on it.
And also,
great. Hold on. I'm just skipping. I'm fucking annoyed.
Utility folk for
great.
Natural camouflage. The 2014 Ranger had the ability at higher level to easily camouflage themselves, but it required them to loop through hiding,
okay,
specifically the hide action.
Right.
Now, it's far more supernatural where just they're gone.
Yeah.
And they are invisible.
Okay, so a little more high fantasy.
Easier to use.
Cool.
And be more effective as the Ranger
great. They have illusion.
Combine the 2014 Ranger.
They're using spells to give them supernatural properties so that there's less dice rolling and skill dependency involved.
Really nice flip for people who Cauldron, and what you're going also psychic damage, because I introduced the Gloomstalker
I'm scrubbing
as in a way the foil
to
the change your
hold on
choice. When we've now made it so that
he's looking down at notes.
Your choice whenever you finish a short or long rest.
Again, page, no art. All right, I'm done looking at this shit. I'm done. Yes, there is revision versions of you to fucking see what each class, but they're not giving you any of the mechanics. Nothing. This is disappointing. This is so disappointing. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about this. Look, I got a closing. We're closing statementing this shit. Let's rewind this. I'm going to make a second video quick out of this because I think it's necessary, everybody. All right, everybody. So we just watched an hour-long video from D&D about their new shit that's coming out, the new 2024 edition of D&D. And that hour-long video was a slideshow of art with no mechanics behind it. Then we quickly looked at the Ranger one that came out 9 days ago. So the first one was like 14 days ago, the hour-long. The 31-minute one was like 9 days ago about the Ranger. Same art asset used, blurred out. They're giving us none of the context, like the actual mechanics of the game. And I don't know if anything has mechanics. I know some other content creators out there. I think Nerd Immersion actually put some stuff up on screen to look through it. But these videos they've had out that we just looked at have no mechanics in them. They're blurred. And you want to sell this to new players, like new players that like are picking this up. But old players too want to know the changes because you're asking a 10-year-old crowd. I'm talking about the people who've been with it for 10 years. You're asking them to pick up 2024 by only showcasing art, but not telling them any of the rules that are really changed. Like you've given some verbiage differences, but you've not said like what the increase in damage is when they're talking about like Hunter's Mark. You haven't given any of the information at all. Maybe that we'll get this later on in marketing. Maybe while we're at Gen Con in August, they'll give us like the first look at a class. Maybe there's something out there that has that right now. But I feel like on the D&D YouTube site that this one here, that we just looked at, should be giving samples of what those mechanics are going to look like. I feel like if you don't give that out here, you're kind of failing. And like, look, so here's all the videos that are out. And I'm critiquing this hard because I'm kind of pissed. Spells are in here, crafting's in here, monks in here. We're going to go over crafting tomorrow. This is going to be a prime example of them either showing us how the new mechanics work, or don't. Because crafting is one of those things that in every game system is kind of the real nitty-gritty. And I have a lot of problems in crafting in most games. It's one of the reasons ETHUANTIA has switched fucking systems so many goddamn times. But none of these, we just watched Ranger, it gave us no stats. It's just art. And the art is gorgeous, to be transparent. But guys, this book is in print. It is out, coming out in September, so it's out to print. The printers are making it. That means changes are not happening. This comes out in September. November is the DMG. Why are you not giving us more information? September, November, like, that's 2 months afterwards that we're getting the DMG. They're still working on that. We deserve to see some stuff. But you want your group of people, and this is the second time I'm saying this during this video. They are taking the practice of things like Outlaws, making you buy in with early access adoption, but they're doing that in fucking D&D. With a 2-week early access, I still don't know what Master Tier or Hero Tier is. I'm guessing that's D&D Beyond tiers. That's my guess if brain memory work right. But you're saying 2 weeks of early access and 1 week of early access to Player's Handbook, and you're doing the same thing for your other books as they come out, and your September Player's Handbook release, your November DMG release, and your 2025 Monster Manual release in February. I get they take time to make, but you want us to pre-order all of this stuff, saying that it runs parallel, that 2024 can have 2014 rules play with it, and it will function, but it doesn't really work great the other way. I get it. You updated your rules. What are the fucking rules? What are the rules? What did you change? What did you do? Even Pathfinder, when they did the remastered, they gave us stuff to look at. They showed us what was changed. And then when they heard, we were upset because it was like a shotgun blast and there was changes everywhere. They're like, look, we'll even give you the changes to some of the books that we're not going to redo right away. And they did that for other books that were coming out. They put a whole fact together. You, as far as I can tell, and if anyone's watching this in the comments, you let me know where they're showing us the difference, because I would love to look at it. Because right now, I'm going to agree with Nessie. I got to say, this feels like a timeshare. I'm getting kind of baited and switched. But this early access shit should not exist in tabletop RPGs. Pre-ordering is fine. Getting numbers together is fine. Limited edition, collector's edition. We're printing 2,000 of these. Get them while you can. That makes sense. They don't want to make all of that stuff and then have it not sell. I get pre-ordering collector's edition. That little bit of FOMO for the collectors, like, look, collector's editions are for collectors. I have collector's editions. I fucking have 2 sitting next to me. I have 2 books. I'm fucking mad right now. I have a collector's edition. Let's talk collector's editions. We want to go into this? Collector's editions are fine. Foil cover. Non-foil cover. The backs of the book. Same things. We've seen collector's editions 100 times. And pre-ordering stuff so you can get the collector's editions of books that are on your shelf makes sense. The paper is different. The paper in this book is lighter. It's kind of semi-glossed. This is a heavier book. It's a heavier weight paper. It's more like, almost like a cardstock. There's nothing wrong with buying a collector's edition because you know you're buying the next step in quality, because you either want to support or you got the Pokemon fever and you got to catch them all. You literally are collecting the things that are important to you because you're a hobbyist and you're collecting those things. But telling me that I'm going to get a 1 week to 2 week sneak peek at a fucking book that's going to be out because it's already done, this isn't Kickstarter, man. Your shit's finished for that Player's Handbook. But you want us to buy into the other 2 so your reports can look good. I'm upset. I think you should be upset. This is not okay practice. This is the practice that people bitch about in video games. Same as my last video. If I don't see some mechanics for this game, I'm going to be even more upset than I am now. And right now, none of this has won me over. And I don't think you should be won over. I will say, thank you, artist. That art fucking rocks. Whoever the art director is, great job. You nailed it. This stuff looks fantastic. And to the people who are selling this because that's their job, I have no shade towards you. No hate. You're doing your job. You've been told to do this. Someone's making these decisions. But we want to see mechanics. We're buying a game for mechanics. I can buy an art book. Fuck. I can go to a library and get an art book and make an entire game. Do the right thing. Give us some mechanics before we pre-order your stuff. I will not be an early adopter for this. Anyway, frustrating as this is, if you're watching this video, other videos to watch, another thing to subscribe, comment down below on this one. This conversation's important, and the more people who know about it, that know the history of Wizards of the Coast practices, the better we can be educated on what's going on. There's tons of content creators out there that are covering this, and as I watch more and review them, we'll talk about them. I'm disappointed in the choices for 2024 and hiding behind the art veil and smoke and mirroring a completed book. It's just not okay, everybody. It's just not okay. So to everybody here in the live show, I just want to say thank you for joining me today. I know this was a long one. I did not expect to spend my first day off blowing up 5e for that. Thanks to the new subscribers, Waytroth. I hope you enjoyed this. I am passionate about this industry because I have a lot of friends in it. I love it. I love what it's about. I love this hobby. I have over 300 videos in the EFP archive of us doing actual plays and this new content that I'm making. My time in the industry as a player, a GM, and a creator, I want other people to be better in this industry, inviting more people to play instead of talking about the drama all the time, because I usually don't. I'm trying to educate people about other games that are out there and ways that you can play. But when the big dog in the room is not giving us the things we deserve to know to pre-order their stuff, I'm disappointed. And especially since they're the founder of really the RPG industry. I'll be at Gen Con this year. For those who don't know, myself and Kelly are going. We are excited to go. It's just us. I don't think anyone else from the cast that I know is going to be there with us directly. But with Norse Foundry, Adam, Diana, and Drew will also be there if you're familiar with our shows. We're going to get-together somewhere and hang out. So if you are watching this stuff later, join in our Discord. I'm going to put that in the chat right now. And ping us in Discord, and we'll tell you where we're going to be, and we'll do a meetup and have some food and drinks and just kind of hang out with people who watch our shows. But thank you for watching this. I know this was a heated version of me that maybe a lot of you aren't used to that don't know me off screen. But I believe this, and I've been saying this since my old EFP podcast. Watch, listen, learn. Be a better gamer. That's what this is all about, everyone. Until then, subscribe, like, share, comment below. Let's talk about this stuff. And I will be back tomorrow. And we'll look at something else for this, and we'll see if maybe my blood isn't at a boiling temperature anymore. Thank you so much for joining me today, everybody, and I will see you again tomorrow.